Chapter 91. The ordinary realm we're in now was a newly formed 1,000 years ago. It was incorporated into the Baiyun prefecture by the Dezhou nation. Gu Feng said slowly in the loyalty hall. It's said that when the ordinary realm was established 1,000 years ago, demons were born and tried to wreak havoc in the world. However, they were defeated and sealed by experts. Who would have thought that the demons would break out of the seal and create a demon disaster in the Undying Plains? If the demons are allowed to absorb enough power and leave the ordinary realm, it will be a great disaster. Therefore, the Carrier Trading Company hopes to ask Cold Mountain Village to help us fight the demons. Fight the demons together. Qin Shijian didn't answer immediately. He needed some time to digest what Gu Feng had said. From what Gu Feng said, he could understand how the demons came to be. He could also understand how the ordinary realm was formed. The world expanded endlessly. This was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. However, from Gu Feng's expression, it was obvious that this wasn't a big secret to others. At least from Gu Feng's perspective. A moment later, Qin Shijian said, "It's not that I'm belittling myself, but with the Carrier Trading Company's foundation, you shouldn't need Cold Mountain Village. I believe that your company doesn't lack experts above the basic realm." The Carrier Trading Company could spread throughout the 13 prefectures of the great Zhao nation. He didn't believe that they didn't have experts above the basic realm. Gu Feng wanted Cold Mountain Village to deal with the demon disaster. Did he want to use him as cannon fodder? Or did he have other plans? Thinking of this, Qin Shijian's eyes gradually turned cold. Gu Feng saw the coldness in his eyes and quickly explained. "Don't misunderstand, Fort Master Qin. The Carrier Trading Company does have experts above the basic realm. However, in the ordinary realm, even if they're above the basic realm, they're only equivalent to the 10th stage of the basic realm. Fort Master Qin was able to unify Cold Mountain and Chaotic Stone Forest. Your strength can be considered top-notch in the ordinary realm." At this point he saw that the other party's expression had eased a little, so he couldn't help but pause before continuing. He continued, "Moreover, the demons in the ordinary realm will also be suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth. They can't break the shackles of the ordinary realm, so Fort Master Qin can rest assured. In addition, if Cold Mountain Village is willing to help, the Carrier Trading Company is willing to pay a certain amount of compensation." "What reward?" "A true stage cultivation technique." "True rank?" "That's right. Once you break through the barrier of the mortal realm, you will be in the true realm." "Not enough." "Not enough?" Gu Feng could not help but be stunned. He almost thought that he had misheard. In his opinion, it was impossible for any basic realm expert to refuse a truth-tier cultivation technique. After all, in order to break through the basic martial realm, one would need a corresponding cultivation technique. Otherwise, it was very likely that he would be shackled by the cultivation method and be trapped in his current realm. Gu Feng's original plan was, even if Qin Shijian didn't immediately kneel down and lick his boots, there was no reason for him to refuse. For a moment, his mind was spinning wildly. Very soon, Gu Feng thought that he had figured out the crux of the matter. He couldn't help but sigh. So Fort Master Qin also had his own fortuitous encounter. No wonder Cold Mountain Stronghold could be promoted to a second-grade organization. Since Fort Master is not willing to accept the truth rank cultivation technique, what kind of reward do you want? Feel free to state it. How much is a true tier cultivation technique worth? The price of a true tier cultivation technique is usually between 10,000 to 50,000, depending on the nature of the cultivation technique. Gu Feng hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he still answered truthfully. Qin Shijian said, "I think the Carrier Trading Company would not give you the worst true-tier cultivation technique. Then let's go with the market price and convert it to 20,000. What is the price of a 9th-grade weapon and a treasured armor?" "The price of a weapon is between 10 to 50, treasured armor is slightly more expensive, between 20 to 80. How about this? Out of the 20,000, 11,000 can be exchanged for 500 9th-grade broadswords and 500 9th-grade treasured armors." The remaining 9,000 can be exchanged for food and clothing. Is there a problem? Qin Shujian immediately made a decision. Hearing this, Gu Feng's face stiffened. It was very obvious that Qin Shujian's request was completely out of his expectations. If Brother Gu agrees, I will definitely not go back on my word and will definitely cooperate with the carrier trading company. If it is really difficult, then I can understand, Qin Shujian said with a faint smile, asking for a sky-high price and paying as low as possible. Since Gu Feng came to him for this matter, it proved that the demon disaster had a huge impact or hidden danger on the carrier trading company. It had to be dealt with. Although the demon disaster was also a threat to the Cold Mountain village. But when comparing the two sides, the one who spoke first would naturally be at a disadvantage. Moreover, after confirming that the demon's strength did not exceed the 10th tier of the martial realm, Qin Shujian was not so anxious. He had a trump card in his hand. He was not afraid of anything. The trump card in his hand was naturally his own strength. Gu Feng was silent for a while, then he clenched his teeth and nodded. Okay, I can make the decision and agree to this. When the time comes, the corresponding materials will be sent to the Cold Mountain village. I just hope that when the carrier trading company prepares to deal with the demon disaster, Stockade Master Qin will act as agreed. Of course. Then I would like to ask Stockade Master Qin to make a detailed list of the materials so that I can send people to prepare. After all, 20,000 is not a small amount, and it will take some time to prepare. That's easy. Qin Shujian immediately sent someone to inform Jingfang to come. Not long after, Jingfang came directly and said respectfully, Stockade Master. Brother Gu, this is Hall Master Jing of the Cold Mountain Village's drill hall. If you have anything to say, you can discuss it with him. With that, Qin Shujian briefly introduced Gu Feng to Jingfang. Then he sat there and let Jingfang and Gu Feng negotiate. As the drill hall master, Jingfang also had the title of military counselor. His understanding of the Cold Mountain village was no less than that of the stockade master. Although he was surprised that the Cold Mountain village had inexplicably gained 20,000 taels of silver. But when he thought of Qin Shujian's methods, he did not have too many doubts. It did not take long. After a simple discussion, the two of them slapped the table and made a decision. After the matter was settled, Gu Feng stood up and said, Stockade Master Qin, the matter of the demon disaster is urgent. I still have to go back and report, so I will take my leave first. Take care. Hall Master Jing, please send me off. Yes. Jingfang nodded. Then he looked at Gu Feng and said, Please. Gu Feng first saluted Qin Shujian and then replied politely, Please. Then, the two of them left the loyalty hall at the same time. Demon disaster. Qin Shujian watched the two of them leave and recalled his conversation with Gu Feng. Whether the carrier trading company would come or not, he could not stand by and do nothing about the demon disaster. Now that someone had given him some benefits before he had to take action, he had no reason to refuse. When the blade and armor arrived, Qin Shujian believed the Cold Mountain village would definitely be upgraded and their strength would increase greatly. Chapter 92. In the room, Qin Shujian took out Gu Feng's package and opened it. There were 3 thick books and 1 thin book lying quietly in the room. He was the first to pick up the thin book. Then he opened it directly. You've learned the mortal level medium iron casting technique. Then, Qin Shujian felt the skin on his body squirming slightly as if it had become tighter. Thwart training technique? Feeling the changes in his body and the information related to the iron casting technique in his mind, he understood. Speaking of thwart training techniques, among the many techniques that Qin Shujian practiced, the rock technique could be considered as half a thwart training technique. As for the body forging scripture, it fully developed the body's potential instead of improving it unilaterally. So, speaking of thwart training techniques, the iron casting technique was the first thwart training technique he got. Regarding this, Qin Shujian was satisfied. For him who could directly deduce techniques with his life source, the level of the technique was not the main problem. Even if it was a mortal level low-level technique, he could still deduce it. What really satisfied Qin Shujian was the type of technique. This point. It was not something that could be obtained by deduction alone. This was also the reason why he had flatly refused Gu Feng's request for a true rank cultivation technique. According to Qin Shujian's own estimation, when his technique was deduced to the 11th level and broke the shackles of the basic martial arts, there was a high probability that the technique would be promoted to the truth level. After learning the iron casting technique, Qin Shujian did not pay too much attention to it. The main thing was that he did not have enough life source. Everything else was useless. Then he looked at the books of the other three techniques. Records of the strange stories of the Dazhao country. World knowledge. And the map of the Dazhao country he wanted. It wasn't until he opened the last book that Qin Shujian realized it wasn't a book at all. It was a huge map that had been folded up. Different from other techniques, these books did not directly appear in his mind like other techniques. Instead, he needed to look at them bit by bit and memorize them. Qin Shujian had expected this. Half an hour later, he closed the map in his hand and finally had a general understanding of the Great Zhao country. The 13 prefectures of the Great Zhao are truly vast and boundless. Not to mention the 13 prefectures of Great Zhao, just the Baiyun prefecture alone was hundreds of millions of territories. He only managed to find his current location on a small dot on the map. The North Cloud Manor had a total of 5 regions and 3,600 cities. The ordinary realm he was in was located at the border of the northern spiritual region of the Northern Cloud Mansion. Because it was a newly established ordinary realm, it was marked with a small word on the map. Brilliant Star Ordinary Realm. The Great Zhao Kingdom. Qin Shujian gripped the map tightly. His eyes shone brightly. Previously, he did not know how strong the Great Zhao country was. Now then. Finally he knew. The Baiyun prefecture alone had 3,600 cities. Similar to the Starlight Ordinary Realm where he was from, there were quite a few in the Northern Cloud Mansion. Just as Gu Feng said, the world was expanding at every moment. Perhaps the Baiyun prefecture was not that big in the beginning, but after countless years of changes, it was enough to grow to a terrifying extent. Originally, Qin Shujian understood that the Cold Mountain Village could only dominate the ordinary realm with its strength. It would not be a big deal outside of the ordinary realm. But now, looking at it, even if he did not know much about the forces outside of the ordinary realm, he could understand that the Cold Mountain Village was really as small as an ant. Qin Shujian did not believe it. With such a vast territory, it was impossible to produce enough powerhouses. At the same time, he once again had a clear understanding of the carrier trading company that spanned across the 13 prefectures of Great Zhao and had influence all over the world. No matter how weak it was more than 100 times stronger than his Cold Mountain Village. However, the carrier trading company was powerful as a whole, not just an ordinary branch. From his conversation with Gu Feng, he could tell that the carrier trading company probably had a large number of branches. If spread out like this, even if each branch was powerful, it would not be to the point of defying the heavens. Just talking about the branch in the Starlight Ordinary Realm, their strength was probably not much stronger. After that, Qin Shujian opened the records of Great Zhao Nation's strange news. It recorded some rare treasures, as well as rumors that certain treasures existed in certain places. Because there were too many things written in it, he only flipped through it a few times before throwing it to the side. These things. He would slowly read them when he had time in the future. When he picked up the last book, World Knowledge, Qin Shujian flipped through the contents a few times before his expression finally became serious. One of the contents recorded the origin of the ordinary realm. Without hesitation, he directly flipped to the corresponding page. The contents recorded in it were not much different from what Gu Feng had told him about the origin of the ordinary realm. However, the records were more detailed and more complete. Before the ordinary realm was completely formed, there were no so-called shackles. Demons were also born at this time. It was only when the ordinary realm was gradually formed and stabilized that a kind of rule and restrictions slowly formed. Chapter 93. There weren't many records about forces. Qin Shujian only used 10 minutes to finish reading all of them. He also had a general understanding of the division of forces and the promotion method. It was similar to what he had guessed at the beginning. Forces were divided into 9 levels from low to high. Forces below level 1 were also divided into strong and weak forces, but they weren't in the mainstream at all. As for the requirements for promotion, Qin Shujian was surprised. Luck. The requirement for promotion was to have enough luck. The way to increase luck was either to conquer the world and use the people's hearts to increase it, or to collect innate spiritual objects. The so-called innate spiritual objects were treasures that were born naturally from heaven and earth, and contained the luck of heaven and earth. But what surprised Qin Shujian was that the ordinary realm was actually the place that gave birth to the most innate spiritual objects. Even if this referred to the newly born ordinary realm. Rubbing his chin with his palm, Qin Shujian fell into deep thought. Innate spiritual objects can increase luck. Judging from the situation of the brilliant star ordinary realm being born for so long, I'm afraid that some of the innate spiritual objects have already been plundered. After all, which force didn't want such things? But what's written in the book shouldn't be complete. Luck is not only obtained from innate spiritual objects and the establishment of a country, but also from destroying other forces. Qin Shujian thought of the 2 promotions of Cold Mountain Village and had a general idea. He didn't know if the records in the book weren't complete, or if this method only applied to Cold Mountain Village. Or rather, it only applied to himself. As for the promotion of each force, it wasn't as Qin Shujian had originally imagined, where it would increase the realm of all the people in the force. Promotion to a level 1 force could only increase 500 people at a time. Promotion to a level 2 force could only increase 1,000 people at a time. Level 3 was 2,000, level 4 was 5,000, and level 5 was 10,000. After that, there were no records. This also destroyed Qin Shujian's idea of wantonly recruiting people and then taking advantage of the next promotion to raise everyone's realm in one fell swoop. After digesting the information he wanted, he solemnly put these 3 things away. For now, for him, these 3 things couldn't be of much use. But in the future, it would still be of great help. What Qin Shujian cared about the most right now was breaking the shackles of the ordinary realm. I should be considered a native of the brilliant star ordinary realm. He suddenly felt uncertain. The term native living beings meant that after the first generation of people migrated to the brilliant star ordinary realm, the next generation would be considered the native living beings of the brilliant star ordinary realm. Qin Shujian had also tried to chat with the other bandits who had advanced in their realms, but they did not have many memories of the past. This kind of person. It was more like the game world had created it out of thin air, rather than being born naturally. However, Qin Shujian wasn't sure if he felt the same way. The waters of this game world are a little deep, he suddenly sighed. The more he understood, the more profound this world felt. He had the urge to immediately understand everything, but reality made him understand that this was simply impossible. At least, he didn't have the ability to do so now. If I can't even get rid of the crisis of the players, then no matter how much I think about it, it's useless to think about it. Qin Shujian shook his head, forcefully suppressing the doubts in his heart. Then he directly laid on the bed, closed his eyes and fell asleep. The next day, Qin Shujian got up from the bed. He didn't wake up naturally, but was woken up by someone. He angrily got up from the bed in a hurry, opened the door abruptly, and glared at the bandit whose hand was hanging in the air with his slightly red eyes, and said in a muffled voice, "What's the matter?" The bandit was stared at, and his heart suddenly became uneasy. After hearing Qin Shujian's words, he immediately stammered, Master Wang said that he has something to discuss with you." While speaking, he had been secretly paying attention to the changes in Qin Shujian's expression. His master had a temper when he woke up, and after a few bandits had been beaten up in a row, the news had already spread. There was no need to. No one dared to rashly disturb the master's sleep anymore. But when he thought of Wang Tieju's order, the bandit felt powerless in his heart. He was afraid of Qin Shijian. But he couldn't disobey Wang Tieju's order. Just as the bandit was nervous, Qin Shijian's anger in his heart gradually subsided a lot. Finally, he waved his hand weakly and said, "Let him wait in the loyalty hall. I'll go there after washing up." Yes, I'll take my leave." The bandit felt as if he had been pardoned, and he directly ran away. After a simple washing up, Qin Shijian was also completely awake. After leaving the room, he walked towards the loyalty hall. The place where he lived was not far from the loyalty hall. It would only take a few minutes to cover the distance. As expected, Wan Taizhu had already been sitting there waiting for a long time. When he saw Qin Shijian come in, he quickly got up. "Master! Has the information about the lion-tiger plane arrived?" Qin Shijian sat down on the main seat and asked straightforwardly. Hearing that, Wang Taizhu nodded and said, "The brothers of the information hall have already brought back the information of the lion-tiger plane." "Speak." "Yes." Hearing that, Wang Taizhu directly told him the information regarding the lion-tiger plane. The lion-tiger plane was different from other places. That place was occupied by a group of powerful mutated beasts, as well as many ferocious beasts. The so-called mutated beasts were beasts that were born with intelligence, and understood human affairs. It was different from the stone forest. There were many ferocious beasts and mutated beasts in the lion-tiger plane, but there was only one power that truly occupied it. And that was the Ox Demon Cave. The Ox Demon Cave had many powerful mutated beasts and ferocious beasts. The cave master was an incomparably powerful Ox Demon Lord, whose strength was not below the 7th stage of the martial realm. But because the Ox Demon Lord didn't leave the Ox Demon Cave all year round, there was no definite answer as to what level his strength had reached. Apart from that, Wang Taizhu also brought a piece of information that Qin Shijian was most concerned about. Players. Just as he had imagined, there were players in every realm. It was the same in the lion-tiger plane. How strong are those players? So when he heard the news about the players, Qin Shijian immediately threw the matter of the Ox Demon Cave to the back of his mind. What were mutated beasts and ferocious beasts? What was the Ox Demon Lord? Could these things be as troublesome as the players? Wan Taizhu didn't know why his fort master was so concerned about the players, but he still immediately replied. A brother fought with a group of players. From the situation of the fight, the player's strength was around the 4th or 5th stage of the martial realm. 4th or 5th stage of the martial realm. Qin Shijian's mood was a bit heavy. If he remembered correctly, the players in Novice Village 10021 were at most in the 1st or 2nd stage of the basic realm. When he reached Novice Village 23012, the highest was only in the 4th or 5th stage of the basic realm. Moreover, there were very few of them. And now, any random group of players he encountered in the lion-tiger plane already had such strength. He didn't believe it. This was the top group of players in the lion-tiger plane. Everything had to be prepared for the worst. The player's strength is increasing too quickly. If it isn't suppressed, the trouble in the future will be even more serious than the demon disaster. Qin Shijian's heart was slightly cold. How could he allow others to sleep in his bed? In the end, the lion-tiger plane was too close to the cold mountain stronghold. Chapter 94. The demon disaster raged in the Undying Plains. Whether it was the original NPC forces or the player forces, they were all in a terrible state. The undead skeletons revived from the demon disaster didn't differentiate between native creatures and players. As long as it was a living creature, it was a target for them to slaughter. In less than 2 days, 80% of the Undying Plains were conquered by the undead skeletons. As for the original NPC forces, they were all destroyed. If it wasn't for the fact that players could revive indefinitely, they wouldn't have been able to hold on. Novice Village 17561. For the players here, ever since the demon disaster raged, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that they were in purgatory. It could be said that there was an endless stream of undead skeletons attacking the Novice Village. Batch after batch of players died. The undead skeletons were also destroyed in batches. But these undead skeletons seemed to be able to revive like the players. No matter how the players killed them, their numbers didn't decrease. Damn it! Where did these damn skeletons come from? Yu cut off the arm of the skeleton in front of him with one slash. Then he closed in and skillfully decapitated it, directly gaining experience. But there was no joy on his face at all. These undead skeletons were harder to kill than monsters of the same level. They also didn't drop anything. The only thing they could give was a decent amount of experience. There was nothing else. As soon as he killed one undead skeleton, more than 10 undead skeletons surrounded him. Yu frowned and immediately retreated. Then he looked around. The wilderness plains was full of undead skeletons fighting with players. The only thing that could be considered calm. There was only the Novice Village that was desperately guarded behind him. Just like Novice Village 23012, the Novice Village he was in also issued a compulsory mission. Once the Novice Village was destroyed, they would also be severely punished. It was worth rejoicing. Although the undead skeletons were endless, their strength wasn't too high. With the advantage of the player's revival and the speed of gaining experience, they could barely hold on. But how long can we hold on like this? Yu felt a little tired. Even if he had taken this opportunity to reach the 6th stage of the martial arts realm, it was still the same. Because the experience needed to reach the 7th stage of the martial arts realm from the 6th stage of the martial arts realm was too much. If he wanted to get enough experience, he had to fight the undead skeletons almost continuously. There was a limit to one's strength. If he wasn't careful, it was easy for him to fail miserably. For example, he himself had reached the 7th stage of the basic realm half a day ago. However, under the encirclement of numerous skeletons, he was ambushed by an elite-level monster and directly dropped 2 stages. Yu was not the only one facing this situation. Even if the EXP gain from continuous killing wasn't slow, no one could remain undying. So until now, the overall strength of the players in Novice Village 17561 had not increased by much. It wasn't that there weren't any players who wanted to ask for help from other Novice Villages. However, there were only so many Novice Villages near the Undying Plains. 10021 and 23012 Novice Villages had already been annihilated before them. As for the other Novice Villages, when they saw the undead skeletons covering the mountains and plains on the forums, no one was willing to help. On the other side, under the Cold Mountain Stronghold's unyielding methods and alluring conditions, the Black Mountain Stronghold had no choice but to give up. The villages on both sides of Mount Liang and the Stone Forest had produced many young and strong men. They had joined the Mount Liang Stronghold and officially became glorious bandits. Looking at the newly promoted bandits standing upright below, but their expressions were still unable to completely conceal their fear, Qin Shujian suddenly felt a sense of sorrow. Adding on this new batch of people. Adding on to the original 500 bandits. Unknowingly, the Mount Liang stronghold now had more than 1,200 people. This was already a lot of people. The mountain where the Mount Liang stronghold was built wasn't very steep or grand. It wasn't even very big. Previously, it could only accommodate 500 people. Now that the number of people had increased to 1,000, it was already packed to the brim. Hall Master Jing. This old man is here. Jing Fong, who was standing behind him, responded in a timely manner. Qin Shujian said, Mount Liang can no longer accommodate so many people. However, this is the foundation of the Mount Liang stronghold. It's temporarily impossible to move. In your opinion, what should we do with so many people? In this old man's opinion, it's better to let them build a stronghold at the foot of the mountain with Mount Liang as the center. Xingfang paused for a moment and said with a smile, If the stronghold is surrounded and protected by many brothers, not only will it relieve the pressure on the stronghold, It will also serve as a foil to the Stronghold Master's prestige. Qin Shujian thought for a moment and nodded. Then I'll have to trouble Hall Master Jing to deal with this matter. This old man obeys. After handing the matter over to Jingfang, Qin Shujian looked at them a few more times, then turned around and left. For him, these newly promoted bandits hadn't even reached the first stage of the basic realm. For the time being, they wouldn't be of much use to him. He needed the people of the martial arts hall to teach them the corresponding techniques. Only then could he think of a way to kill these players and increase their strength. Before that, he had to find the players first. The novice villages in Mount Liang and the stone forest had been destroyed. There were almost no players left. Therefore, Qin Shujian's target was the Lion-Tiger Plain. Other than half of the martial arts hall staying behind to guard Mount Liang's stronghold and half of the cloud-traversing hall guarding the stone forest, the rest of the people will follow me to flatten the Lion-Tiger Plain. In the loyalty hall, Qin Shujian's aura was awe-inspiring. The others didn't show any surprise. The information hall had always been investigating the ins and outs of the Lion-Tiger Plain. What Qin Shujian was thinking in his heart was already as clear as day. Moreover, with the current strength of Mount Liang's stronghold, they didn't think that the Lion-Tiger Plain could cause any trouble. Therefore, after Qin Shujian gave the order, the people in charge of the other halls also began to move. Soon, other than the forces left behind to guard the stronghold, more than 300 bandits had gathered. This time, the Martial Arts Hall Vice Hall Master Su Yuanming, the Cloud Traversing Hall Master Niu Feng, the Wei Hall Master Xinghong, the Loyalty Hall Master Zhang Tinyu, and the Information Hall Master Wang Taizhu were all ready. Other than Jingfang guarding the stronghold, Mount Liang's stronghold directly mobilized 3/4 of its strength. Among the 300 bandits, the lowest was the 6th stage of the martial realm. They had reached the peak of qi and blood. With so many people gathered together, their aura was like a rainbow. There seemed to be surging qi and blood overflowing. All the obstacles in Mount Liang's territory had been completely swept away by Mount Liang's stronghold. Even the wild beasts along the way, when they felt the surging qi and blood, fled as if they had encountered a terrifying natural enemy. Therefore, with Qin Shujian as the leader, the group moved almost unimpeded. They directly arrived at the border between Mount Liang and the Lion-Tiger Plain. There wasn't even a second of delay. Qin Shujian was the first to step into the border. As the Mount Liang stronghold master, you have stepped into other people's territory without permission. You have been discovered by the Demon Ox Cave in the Lion-Tiger Plain. If you don't withdraw in time, it will cause a war between the two forces. Attention! The Demon Ox Cave is extremely powerful. 3 system messages appeared in a timely manner. Qin Shujian only glanced at them and didn't pay any attention to them. Previously, when he entered the stone forest, he triggered the small probability event that was not discovered. This kind of thing was completely due to luck. Being able to trigger it once was already very good. Qin Shujian didn't believe that he would trigger it again. Therefore, when they stepped into the Lion-Tiger Plain, it was inevitable that they would be discovered. On a vast plain, many wild beasts ran amok. There were also mutated beasts with intelligence. From time to time, loud roars of wild beasts could be heard. The ground trembled slightly, indicating that a primitive battle was unfolding. In the middle of the plain, there was a mountain forest. In a cave that seemed to be formed naturally, there would be a thunderous breathing sound every once in a while. None of the wild beasts and mutated beasts dared to approach the cave. As if there was a terrifying existence inside. Suddenly, the thunderous breathing sound in the cave suddenly stopped. Immediately after, a terrifying aura burst out. It was accompanied by an earth-shattering roar that instantly covered the sounds of the wild beasts fighting. In an instant, the group of beasts prostrated. In the cave, a huge black shadow slowly walked out. Every step caused the ground to tremble slightly. When the black shadow completely walked out of the cave, they could finally see its full appearance clearly. Its huge black horn was like a curved bow. Its tall body and limbs were covered in dark green scales. Its tail was also covered in scales, like a steel whip. Its bell-sized eyes were full of anger. Ox Demon Lord. When Qin Shujian stepped into the lion-tiger plane, he immediately received a warning from the unseen world. He was very clear. This was a warning from the heavenly Tao. It meant that an external enemy was stepping into his territory. In the eyes of the Ox Demon Lord, this was something that absolutely could not be allowed. According to the heavenly Tao's warning, the force that entered the lion-tiger plane this time was called Cold Mountain Village. He had heard this name recently, but he didn't expect that the other party would dare to step into the lion-tiger plane. All the beasts belonging to the Ox Demon Cave appear in front of this lord within 30 breaths. The Ox Demon Lord spoke in human language, his voice like rolling thunder. Immediately, with the Ox Demon Cave as the center, all the exotic beasts in all directions began to move. To be able to belong to the Ox Demon Cave, only the exotic beasts with spiritual intelligence were qualified. Moreover, compared to the wild beasts without spiritual intelligence, the exotic beasts had the most experts. Not long after, a large number of exotic beasts were prostrating in front of the Ox Demon Lord. These exotic beasts were of different species, but without exception, all of them had a powerful aura. The Ox Demon Lord's tall body looked down at the exotic beasts prostrating below. His voice boomed as he said, "Warning from the heavens! An enemy is trying to encroach on the lion-tiger plane. Now, follow this lord and kill the enemy. We obey the lord's orders. Let's go!" The Ox Demon Lord directly ordered. Subsequently, the exotic beasts galloped, shaking the ground non-stop. The loud sound and aura caused the wild beasts without spiritual intelligence to retreat. They didn't dare to come close at all. Some scattered players were hunting the wild beasts. Suddenly, they felt the ground tremble. Before they could understand what was going on, they saw a large number of exotic beasts galloping over. They were instantly knocked to the ground and trampled to death in the next moment. In the end, these players didn't understand what was going on. Chapter 95. What's going on? Have those exotic beasts gone crazy? F***CK, even that big ox demon boss from Ox Demon Cave has come out. Are they going to attack the village? In Lion-Tiger Plain, the players were in a mess. At this point in the game, it was no longer strange for monsters to attack villages. Not to mention the distant ones. Just say that next door was the bloody reality. 2 novice villages had been destroyed by the boss. A novice village was being encircled and annihilated, and it looked like it would be destroyed at any moment. It also indirectly made the players on Lion-Tiger Plain feel that they were in danger. After all, there were too many exotic beasts on Lion-Tiger Plain. Many players wanted to attack Ox Demon Cave, but 90% of them were destroyed outside Ox Demon Cave. Only a small portion of them were lucky enough to reach Ox Demon Cave, but they were also crushed to death by Ox Demon Lord. Comparing the strength of the monsters. Currently, the strength of the players on Lion-Tiger Plain was still a little low. Just as the other players were nervously sending messages and preparing for battle, they suddenly realized that the exotic beasts led by Ox Demon Lord didn't even look at the other players. They completely missed the novice village. With this, the players' nervousness eased a little. They were even more curious about the exotic beasts' movements. The exotic beasts were out in full force. If it wasn't to attack the village, was it to roam? At this moment, the Liang Mountain Village bandit team had officially crossed the border and entered Lion-Tiger Plain. A bandit ran from afar and stopped in front of Qin Shujian and the others. He panted slightly and said, "Greetings, village master and hall master." Wang Taizhu glanced at Qin Shujian, then asked the bandit in front of him who belonged to the intelligence hall, "What happened?" "Ox Demon Lord has left Ox Demon Cave and is leading thousands of exotic beasts toward us. I'm afraid they don't have good intentions," the bandit replied honestly. "Return to the team." Hearing this, Wang Tieju's expression became more serious. He waved his hand and asked the bandit to return to the team behind him. He wasn't the only one. Even the faces of Zheng Hong and the others turned grave. Although they didn't think that the Lion-Tiger Plain would be a match for the Cold Mountain stronghold, if an all-out war were to break out, it wouldn't be easy to fight against the forces of an entire boundary. It was the news from the information hall. On the Lion-Tiger Plains, the Demon Ox Cave was the sole overlord. This also meant that the Ox Demon Lord's realm was enhanced when he was in the territory of the Lion-Tiger Plains. This was similar to the situation of the Cold Mountain Village in the territory of Liang Mountain, but it was different from the situation in the Stone Forest. When there was only one power in a realm, the bonus would extend to the entire realm. On the contrary, if there were many forces in a domain, and they were fighting against each other, the bonus would only be on their own territory. Xing Hong, Niu Feng, and Su Yuanming were all experienced people. They were very clear about this. Chieftain? Xing Hong looked at Qin Shujian, waiting for him to make a decision. Qin Shujian's expression remained the same. He calmly said, "We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Since the demonic ox cave dares to come, we won't have to waste any more time." Hearing this, the others calmed down. After that, the bandit team continued to advance towards the inner part of the Lion-Tiger Plain. But for some reason, they didn't encounter any players along the way. Rumble! The ground shook as if there were tens of thousands of troops galloping. At the same time, a shocking beast roar came from afar. "Stop!" Qin Shujian waved his hand and the bandit team immediately stopped. Then, without needing him to say anything, Xing Hong, Niu Feng, and the other hall masters directly commanded their bandit subordinates to get into formation and prepare for the upcoming battle. Not long after, dense and tiny black dots attacked from afar. As they got closer, these black dots gradually expanded and revealed their true appearance. In the lead, it was a 3 to 4 meter tall green ox that was as huge as a moving hill. Its forehoofs stepped on the ground, giving people a powerful impact. And behind the green ox, there were countless and all kinds of exotic beasts galloping over. The only thing that was the same was, these exotic beasts were slightly larger than the same species of beasts. When they saw the green ox, a name appeared in everyone's mind. Ox Demon Lord. Qin Shujian's expression was slightly cold. He lightly shouted, "Qi and blood explosion!" In an instant. Boom! All the bandits who had reached the 6th stage of the martial arts realm and above had their surging qi and blood explode. They finally gathered together and formed a powerful qi and blood tide that shook the air and buzzed non-stop. This technique? Qin Shujian only discovered it after all the bandits had reached the 6th stage of the martial arts realm. Qi and blood tide. It directly collided with the aura of tens of thousands of beasts galloping in the air. There was no smoke. There was no earth-shattering change. However, the exotic beast army led by Ox Demon Lord was forced to stop 30 feet in front of the bandit team under the impact of this qi and blood tide. Ox Demon Lord's bell-sized eyes were already filled with shock. Even though there were only a few hundred bandits in front of him, which was far from the size of the exotic beast army behind him, he still did not give the order to directly attack the enemy's formation. Because too powerful. Even without exchanging blows, the tide of blood energy was enough to make the Ox Demon Horde Lord apprehensive. Especially when he got closer, he felt a lot of threats from the bandit team. He was even more shocked. To be able to make him feel threatened. That person was at least an expert of the 8th stage of the martial arts realm. Not to mention the person standing at the very front of the bandit team, whose strength he could not see at all. Ox Demon Lord suddenly felt a little regretful. The heavenly axiom's warning would not indicate the specific strength of the enemy. Otherwise, he would definitely not lead his underlings to charge out so decisively. At the very least, when facing such a powerful enemy, he had to at least make some corresponding arrangements. While Ox Demon Lord was hesitating, Qin Shujian was also sizing up the enemy. To be honest, after coming to this world for so long, it was not that he had not seen ferocious beasts, but it was the first time he saw one as big as Ox Demon Lord. Under the premise of ignoring the opponent's strength, If one only looked at the size, the impact was not small at all. However, kill! Qin Shujian waved his hand. Killing intent was revealed in his calm tone. There was nothing much to say. Since the other party had led a group of people to charge over, it was obvious that they wanted to start a battle. Those who strike first gain the upper hand, those who strike later suffer. After eliminating Ox Demon Lord and the other exotic beasts in front of him, the Lion Tiger Plain would also fall into the control of his Cold Mountain stronghold. When the time came, he would slowly train the players here. When the order was given, the bandits were about to charge. The killing intent mixed with the impact of the surging blood, and she instantly woke Ox Demon Lord up. "Don't attack!" As he spoke, his visually shocking body suddenly changed. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a tall and burly man with 2 horns on his head. He wore green armor, and had thick eyebrows and big eyes. Qin Shujian was taken aback by the sudden change. What was this? Ox Demon Lord? Not only him, but even the other bandits were stunned. Their momentum of charging forward couldn't help but pause. Ox Demon Lord, who had transformed into a human, shook his shoulders a few times. He seemed to be not used to this state. Then, his broad palms stroked the horns on his head. A simple and sincere smile appeared on his face. "I am the Lord of Ox Demon Cave on the Lion Tiger Plain. I wonder which one of you is Fort Master Qin of Cold Mountain Stronghold?" Now, Ox Demon Lord's face didn't have a trace of ferocity. That smile was as sincere as it could be. It was completely different from the attitude he had at the beginning, when he wanted to tear his enemies to shreds. Qin Shujian raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "Do you have anything else to say?" His meaning was clear. If there was nothing else to say, then prepare to die. Although he was a little surprised that Ox Demon Lord could transform into a human, it was only a surprise. This didn't change his intention to attack the Lion Tiger Plain. Ox Demon Lord felt a strong killing intent from Qin Shujian's words. His heart couldn't help but tremble. When he saw Qin Shujian's impatient expression, he hurriedly said, "Fort Master Qin, please don't attack. Ox Demon Cave and Cold Mountain Stronghold can be considered allies. There's no need to ruin our relationship. When did my Cold Mountain Stronghold ally with Ox Demon Cave?" Qin Shujian snorted disdainfully. He shouted coldly, "Ox Demon Cave will either submit or be destroyed. Fort Master Qin, Gu Feng said that Ming Liang Mountain Stronghold and the Carrier Trading Company will work together to resist the demon disaster. Ox Demon Cave has also promised the Carrier Trading Company that we will work together. In this way, how can we not be allies?" At this moment, the Ox Demon Commander's mind was working very fast, and he blurted out all his thoughts in one go. There was no other way. He was mainly afraid that if he spoke a little slower, he wouldn't have the chance to speak again. "Gu Feng?" Qin Shujian's expression changed slightly. Ox Demon Lord observed his expression and secretly sighed in relief. The smile on his face became even more enthusiastic. Now that the demon disaster is wreaking havoc on the immortal plains, Cold Mountain Stronghold and Ox Demon Cave are both members of the ordinary realm. We should work together to resist the demon disaster. Seeing this, Qin Shujian remained silent. In addition to Cold Mountain Stronghold, Gu Feng also sought out Ox Demon Cave for cooperation. To be honest, he was a little surprised. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was normal. After all, Ox Demon Cave was the largest power on the Lion Tiger Plains. If they wanted to resist the demon disaster, the Carrier Trading Company naturally wouldn't let go of such a vital force. But in this way, Cold Mountain Stronghold couldn't casually attack Ox Demon Cave. At least, before the demon disaster was resolved, they couldn't casually attack. After understanding the strength of the Carrier Trading Company, Qin Shujian didn't plan to fall out with them for the time being. Moreover, Gu Feng had always given face to Cold Mountain Stronghold. He couldn't secretly slap their face. However, Cold Mountain Stronghold's people were already here. If they went back with their tails between their legs, it would be too humiliating. Qin Shujian's expression returned to normal. he said indifferently. Ox Demon Cave is indeed an ally of Cold Mountain Stronghold if they want to resist the demon disaster together. However, the threat of the variant humans on the Lion-Tiger Plains isn't much weaker than the demon disaster. Now that Cold Mountain Stronghold intends to help Ox Demon Cave wipe out the variant humans, I wonder if Lord is willing? Ox Demon Lord was stunned at first, but quickly reacted. His face was full of smiles. Since Cold Mountain Stronghold is willing to help, how can Ox Demon Cave refuse? As long as they didn't attack Ox Demon Cave, any problem wasn't a problem. Chapter 96. Looking at the submissive Ox Demon Lord in front of him, Qin Shujian couldn't imagine the overlord of the Lion-Tiger Plains. However, when he thought of Niu Feng and Su Yuanming, he felt relieved. Seek good fortune and avoid disaster. That was probably the way to survive. There's one thing I don't understand. How can you transform into a human? For Master Qin, you don't know. For beasts like us who have gained intelligence, we need to break through the limit of the basic realm in order to transform into a human. Other than this method, we need to eat a transformation fruit to transform. Ox Demon Lord smiled honestly. He rubbed his horns again and said, "Luckily, I got a transformation fruit and was able to transform into a human." Hearing that, Qin Shujian more or less understood what was going on. The Ox Demon Lord in front of him, who had transformed into a large man, and the beast standing restlessly behind him, made him feel like he was in a Xianxiao world. Being able to transform into a human, what was the difference between him and the legendary beasts? However, he only thought of it this way before throwing it to the back of his mind. What did it matter if he was a beast or not? He couldn't beat him anyway. Qin Shujian looked straight at Ox Demon Lord and asked in confusion, "Then what realm are you at now?" Ox Demon Lord's face froze. Directly asking about his realm was no different from slapping his face. But when he thought of Cold Mountain for its strength, even if the other party wanted to slap his left face, he had to stretch out his right face. 8th level of the basic realm, nothing much. Qin Shujian nodded. 8th level of the basic realm was actually not bad. At least out of all the masters he had met, Ox Demon Lord was the strongest. Adding on his power, he was probably equivalent to an expert of the 9th level of the basic realm in the Lion-Tiger Plains. Even. Qin Shujian looked at the beasts behind him. Many of them had powerful auras. Standing in front of Qin Shujian, Ox Demon Lord's face was a bit awkward. He was just being modest when he said he wasn't strong enough. After all, in the ordinary realm, those in the 8th stage of the basic realm were the true peak experts. The other party hummed in agreement, leaving him at a loss for words. "What rank is the demonic Ox Cave?" "Level 1. This time, Ox Demon Lord had learned his lesson and answered directly. "First class force." The lowest was the 3rd stage of the basic realm. To be able to become a level 1 faction meant that the Ox Demon Lord had a connate spiritual item. However, Qin Shujian didn't ask any more questions. Connate spiritual items were extremely important to any faction. Even if he asked, the other party might not answer truthfully. Qin Shujian swept his gaze towards the distance, where a small number of sneaky players were roaming about. In the end, his gaze returned to the Ox Demon Lord. "Since the demonic Ox Cave has agreed, then there's no need to waste any more time. Please gather all of the demonic Ox Cave's forces and join me in wiping out the mutants on the Lion-Tiger Plain. Now? Could it be that you have other ideas?" Qin Shujian narrowed his eyes, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. Being stared at, Ox Demon Lord felt a chill run down his spine. He shook his head and said, "There's no time to lose. Let's do it now." After speaking, he had already cancelled his transformation and returned to his original body of a green ox. He turned to look at the army of beasts and shouted, "All beasts listen to my order. Attack the village of mutants." "Yes, sir!" The army of beasts roared in unison like thunder. Then, Ox Demon Lord took the lead, with the army of beasts behind him. The moment the army of beasts set off, Qin Shujian also waved his hand and ordered the bandits to move. The players who were originally wandering in the distance and observing the army of beasts and bandits were scared out of their wits when they saw both sides charging towards them. Without thinking, they turned around and fled. However, how could those with 2 legs outrun those with 4 legs? These players didn't get far before the army of beasts caught up. Immediately after, they were completely swallowed by the waves. Very quickly, the news of the Ox Demon Cave boss going crazy, gathering beasts to attack the players, and charging towards the Novice Village spread out. Novice Village 51169. The situation instantly became tense. After all, there was a precedent. Now, no one dared to underestimate the boss attacking the village. If they weren't careful, it would be awkward. Rumble! Thousands of beasts drove many other beasts and set off a powerful beast tide. Under the command of Ox Demon Lord, they killed all the players they encountered. The bandits of Cold Mountain Stronghold didn't even have a chance to attack before Ox Demon Lord's men cleared out all obstacles. Ox Demon Lord had already transformed back into human form and stood beside Qin Shujian. He smiled and said, "Fort Master Qin, do you think the strength of my Ox Demon Cave is still acceptable?" "Not bad." Qin Shujian smiled. The Ox Demon Overlord could be said to have dragged out all of the demonic Ox Cave's secrets. Even if he didn't seriously think about the other party's intentions, he could still understand most of it. It was nothing more than telling others that the Ox Demon Cave was strong, and that Cold Mountain Stronghold shouldn't have any ideas about the Lion Tiger Plains. If it was before they were promoted to a second-class faction. Now that the Ox Demon Cave had revealed such strength, Qin Shujian would have to think twice before making a move on the Lion Tiger Plains. If he wasn't careful, perhaps both sides would end up with heavy losses. But with the current strength of the Cold Mountain Stronghold, Qin Shujian sneered in his heart. Ox Demon Lord was also secretly observing Qin Shujian's expression. Just as Qin Shujian thought, he did this to let the other party see the strength of the Ox Demon Cave and dispel those thoughts that they shouldn't have. Otherwise, it would be uncomfortable to have a strong enemy staring at you all the time. Thinking of this, Ox Demon Lord felt a little bitter in his heart. When Gu Feng came to him to cooperate, he only mentioned the Cold Mountain Stronghold in passing. He never told him that the neighboring Cold Mountain Stronghold was this strong. Fortunately, things hadn't reached a point of no return yet. The Novice Village was already in sight. However, the Beast Race Army's speed had slowed down. Because in front of the army, a large group of players had already gathered and were clashing with the exotic beasts. A group of players from the Novice Village. There were at least 1,000 of them, and more than 10,000 of them. Qin Shujian looked at the players gathered in front of him. At a glance, their numbers weren't much less than the Ox Demon Cave's army. The moment the two sides came into contact, they started killing each other. Compared to these exotic beasts, the players' realms were generally a little lower. Moreover, these exotic beasts weren't small in size, and they were covered in fur and armor. They were born with an advantage. Although the players also had weapons, they didn't have weapons. But when comparing the two, they were still a little weaker. At almost every moment, there were beasts dying and players reviving. Ox Demon Lord looked at the charging Beast Race Army and immediately deactivated his shape-shifting state. He turned into a huge green ox and smashed into the crowd. Boom! With a stomp of his hooves, the players' tendons and bones were broken. Just a simple charge was enough to send people flying and coughing up blood. "This is the Ox Demon Cave's Ox Demon boss. Hurry up and restrain him. Don't let him mess up our formation." A player who had tried to conquer the Ox Demon Cave immediately recognized Ox Demon Lord's identity. Hearing that, immediately, dozens of players who had broken through to the 6th stage of the martial realm charged at Ox Demon Lord. The players needed to break through to the 6th stage of the martial realm. They also needed to complete a specific mission and obtain the subsequent cultivation techniques. This mission wasn't difficult, but it wasn't easy either. So even if there were tens of thousands of players in the novice village, only 1 or 2% of them were able to complete a specific mission and obtain a cultivation technique to break through to the 6th stage of the martial realm. No one knew what was going on with this beast wave. No one knew why the beast race on the lion-tiger plains suddenly went crazy. They only knew. Since there was a boss attacking the village, then they had to block it. Or else, just by looking at the downfall of the novice village that was destroyed on the forum, one would know the outcome. Dozens of players at the 6th stage of the martial realm teamed up. The powerful attack immediately forced Ox Demon Lord to change his offense. While the two sides were fighting, the other players tactfully retreated and left the center empty. They left the high-level players to deal with Ox Demon Lord while the others faced the attacks of the Beast Race army. In the novice village, Wang Wenjing left the village chief's office. The team members were already waiting outside. "Young Master Wang, how is it? We've already received this mission. The requirement is to repel the Beast Race army. The more beasts we kill during this period, the better. If we can kill Ox Demon Lord, that would be even better," said Wang Wenjing after glancing at the mission interface. One of the players said, "We just received news that Ox Demon Lord has appeared and is fighting with the player army. Should we head over directly? Is everyone here? As long as we're not on a mission, we've already gathered everyone. No need to wait. Let's go." Hearing that, Wang Wenjing made his decision. The Ox Demon Lord could only die in his hands. If he was killed by others, the completion rate of this mission would be reduced. As for whether or not they could resist the boss's attack, he wasn't worried at all. The current strength of Novice Village 51169 wasn't something that Novice Village 10021 and 23012 could compare to. To the players, every extra day of development was a significant change. Just like before, players at the 5th stage of the martial realm were at most. But now, the 6th stage of the martial realm wasn't too rare. This was the difference. On the battlefield, the Beast Race army was still fighting with the player army. The bandit team stood behind Qin Shujian, waiting for orders. "I'm afraid the Ox Demon Cave's Beast Race army won't be able to deal with these players. Should we join in?" Su Yuanming asked Qin Shujian as he looked at the fighting scene. As he spoke, he was also shocked. Back in the Stone Forest, Chuanyun Village had fought with many players. But compared to the mutants in front of him now, the difference was like heaven and earth. If the players in front of them attacked Chuanyun Village wouldn't be able to hold on for long, and would be wiped out. Hearing that, Qin Shujian was silent for a while before saying, "Kill!" Then, the bandit team behind him charged forward. At the same time, all the players in the battle paused. Then, a system notification appeared, causing their expressions to change drastically. Chapter 97. The Ox Demon Cave and Cold Mountain Stronghold have launched a large-scale attack on Novice Village 51169. This is a battle of life and death. During this period of time, every time you kill an enemy, you will receive a corresponding reward. The more enemies you kill, the stronger you are, and the greater the reward. This is a mandatory mission. The final mission is to defeat the Ox Demon Cave and Cold Mountain Stronghold or kill the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master and Ox Demon Lord. After the mission, you can go to the village chief to collect the reward. Mission failure, Novice Village 51169 will be destroyed. All players will drop by 3 realms and their experience will be reduced by 50% for 10 days. Cold Mountain Stronghold. A mandatory mission. All of the players in Novice Village 51169 were shocked by this news, and their minds were in a trance. No one had expected this. The mandatory mission mentioned on the forum would befall them. They also didn't expect that Cold Mountain Stronghold would appear on the Lion-Tiger Plains and join hands with the Ox Demon Cave. There was a short moment of silence. Then, the crowd boiled over. When did Cold Mountain Stronghold come here? They are even colluding with the Ox Demon Cave. I was wondering why these monsters suddenly went crazy and attacked the village. One ox demon cave is troublesome enough. Now there's an even more troublesome cold mountain stronghold. How are we supposed to fight? I want to know where the cold mountain stronghold master is. The players were all agitated. Many of them felt uneasy. This was something they couldn't do anything about. Cold Mountain Stronghold's reputation among the players was simply too great. They destroyed 2 novice villages in a row and came out unscathed. Their powerful and invincible attitude was deeply ingrained in the hearts of the players. Especially with the mandatory mission, it gave these players a heavy psychological pressure. After all, if they failed the mission, the punishment would be too painful. Kill. With Xingtsang Niufeng as the leader, the bandit team was like an invincible sharp knife, forcefully cutting into the players' camp. The full power of the 8th realm of the martial realm was enough to rival the Ox Demon Lord without the support of any faction. Or on the Lion-Tiger Plains. An 8th realm martial realm hall master was not as strong as the Ox Demon Lord. However, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 were 2 completely different concepts. To deal with a single Ox Demon Lord, they already needed dozens of players in the 6th stage of the martial realm. Now, facing the charge of Niufeng and the others, the players were flustered. Players with unranked weapons, step aside! Immediately, a player shouted. Bronze skin of the 7th stage of the basic realm. 8th stage of the basic realm, iron bones. This was no longer a secret. As time passed in the game, the secrets of the basic martial arts realm had been thoroughly researched by the players. Even if no one had reached the limit of the basic martial arts realm, it was still the same. There was no such thing as forcefully deducting health points in this game. In order to deal with the boss of the 7th stage of the martial realm and above, one needed to be strong enough and equipped with a sharp enough weapon. Or else, no matter how many people there were, it was useless. This was the experience that many players had gained from fighting bosses with blood and tears. Especially the video of the Liangshan village chief attacking the village. Tens of thousands of players were easily killed, allowing the enemy to enter and exit as if there was no one around. This made everyone understand how important it was to break through defenses in this game. In an instant, another group of players split off from the player camp and charged towards the bandit group. Xinghong held his saber and used his full strength of the 8th stage of the martial realm. The 100 saber technique reached an unimaginable level in his hands. His powerful attacks caused the players to retreat step by step. Last time, when he attacked the player village in the stone forest, he was surrounded and killed by the players before the real battle began. This was an eternal pain in Xinghong's heart. If he wasn't surrounded and killed, then Jingfang wouldn't be the only one in the Liangshan village who reached the 9th stage of the martial realm. When he thought of Jingfang's smiling old face, he felt that Jingfang was laughing at him. Furthermore, Xinghong was more worried. If Qin Shujian thought that he wasn't doing a good job and didn't put him in an important position, then that would really affect his future. Therefore, this time, he had to prove himself. The players in front of him were the best way to prove himself. Bang! The tiger head saber emitted a terrifying aura. Xinghong roared and sent the 2 players in front of him flying. This saber, after Qin Shujian obtained the 1,000 mountain blood, the tiger head saber didn't have much use for him. Seeing that Xinghong's original weapon was destroyed by him, he gave it to him. The scene was chaotic. Although there weren't many people in the Liangshan village, every one of them was at the 6th stage of the martial realm. To the current players, they were at least at the level of an elite NPC. Bandits who had mastered other cultivation techniques were equivalent to a moderately sized boss. Therefore, although there weren't many people in the Liangshan village, when they really charged, the players had no way to stop them. Qin Shujian stood at the back, watching the scene of the 2 sides fighting and killing. This time, he could clearly see that the players' strength had transformed to a very powerful level. If they delayed for another 10 days or half a month, they might be able to threaten his Liangshan village. There's too little time! Qin Shujian sighed and shook his head helplessly. The players had to be fast. He could only be faster than the players. After this time, he might really have to seize the time and break through the ordinary realm boundary. Soon, Qin Shujian collected his thoughts. His calm eyes became cold. Looking at the scene of the battle in the distance, the killing intent in his heart gradually boiled. Bang! The ground suddenly caved in. In the next moment, Qin Shujian disappeared from where he stood. In the air, the fifth-grade weapon, Thousand Mountain Blood, was brazenly unsheathed. With the appearance of the long saber, an earth-shattering bloody light seemed to be completely released. The moment Qin Shujian grasped the Thousand Mountain Blood, he felt a strong killing intent surge from the saber. But this time, he didn't suppress this killing intent. Instead, he used his mind to burst out and directly charged into the crowd of players. Entering the lion-tiger plain, the effect of the Liangshan village's strength originally disappeared. But for the current Qin Shujian, it didn't matter if his realm increased by 2. At least, this was the case when facing players who were at most at the 6th stage of the martial realm. Not to mention anything else, just the tenfold body forging scripture, the tenfold everlasting spring technique, and the needfold tiger subduing body forging technique had already pushed his strength to a terrifying level. True Qi level 2. The Thousand Mountain Blood was instantly covered with a thin layer of green true Qi. Vajra Tiger subduing body level 2. The veins on Qin Shujian's arm that was holding the saber bulged like a dragon. A power that far surpassed the 10th stage of the martial realm instantly erupted. Boom! The blade covered with true Qi, combined with a force of several tens of thousands of pounds, directly killed any players who tried to resist. It didn't matter if they were at the 3rd or 4th stage of the martial realm. It didn't matter if they were at the 6th stage of the martial realm. In front of the saber, they were as weak as paper. Such a frightening aura instantly caused the other players' attacks to falter. Even a boss at the level of Ox Demon Lord wouldn't have such a terrifying scene. Then, it went without saying who the boss that suddenly appeared in front of them was. The Liangshan Village Master! Some players who had watched the video on the forum immediately confirmed the identity of the person who came. In an instant, the surrounding players went crazy. Damn, the Liangshan Village Master is here! Are there any more high-level players? Come quickly! Don't worry about the other bosses. Surround the Liangshan Village Master and kill him! At this moment, the Ox Demon Lord and the other bosses were no longer important. What else was more important than the Liangshan Village Master? Some nosy players made a ranking list of the bosses in the novice village. The Liangshan Village Master's name immediately rose to the top 3 and didn't drop. Soon, the news of the Liangshan Village Master appearing on the battlefield spread. Many players gave up on the Ox Demon Lord and the other bosses and changed their target to Qin Shujian. The reason why they did this. The first reason was because the Liangshan Village Master was the strongest and the most famous. The second reason was, the stronger the boss, the more likely it was to be killed. The rewards would definitely make all the players go crazy. Looking at the players who were charging at him, Qin Shujian felt disdain in his heart. The Thousand Mountain Blood turned into a sharp weapon in an instant. In his hands, a level 9 sharp weapon was already terrifying enough. Now that he was using a level 5 sharp weapon, it was as easy as cutting vegetables. The piercingly cold blade light burst forth, and the shadow of a black tiger appeared in midair. Its bell-sized eyes turned blood red. It looked at the players below and let out an earth-shaking roar. Roar! The roar shook the heavens, and the sound waves shook the air. Many players who were close to the roar had painful expressions on their faces. They couldn't help but cover their ears. Faint traces of blood even flowed out of their 7 orifices. Even worse. They directly raised their heads and spat out blood. They turned into white light and revived. Black Tiger Roar! It shocked everyone within 100 miles. This move of the Black Tiger Blade technique became more and more terrifying in Qin Shujian's hands as his realm became more and more profound. With one roar, no less than 10 players died. Even more players instantly lost the ability to resist. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The blade light pierced through the air, cleanly harvesting lives. Qin Shujian was like a bloody executioner. He walked among the players. Every time he swung his blade, a player would die. No matter how many players rushed at him, they couldn't stop him. And his target? It was the novice village behind the players. A player raised his sword to block the attack. However, the blade light flashed, and the long sword broke in the middle. My level 9 sharp weapon! The player felt a sharp pain in his heart, but before he could react, he saw the blade flash again, and he was swallowed by it. The fort master of Mount Lian wants to kill his way into the novice village. Stop him! Stop him! Someone, come quickly! Seeing Qin Shujian enter an unstoppable state, many of the players were horrified. At this moment, it was as if they were in a real battlefield. The bloody killing intent made people tremble. Some of the more timid players already had the urge to retreat. However, when they thought of the consequences of failing the forced quest, they forcefully resisted this urge. Now, this game had become a second world for humans. Wealth and opportunities could be found here. For many people, this place had become an indispensable part of their lives. If they failed the quest, it would be too difficult to catch up with other players. Therefore, they couldn't retreat. Chapter 98. Sometimes, whether one could succeed or not depended not only on oneself, but also on external factors. Players were not afraid of death. But the difference in strength still could not stop Qin Shujian's footsteps. Kill! Thousand Mountain Blood's cold light burst forth, and the sword light raged like a chaotic blade. Almost none of the players who came into contact with it could escape unscathed. Whoosh! The sound of air being torn was heard. Qin Shujian's ears twitched, and Thousand Mountain Blood suddenly slashed out, colliding with the three lights. Bang! Sparks flew, and the lights disappeared. 2 silver arrows flew out. One of the silver arrows was directly broken in half and fell to the ground. What a pity! Wang Wenjing secretly said. He had a clear understanding of Qin Shujian's strength again. Those 3 arrows were not ordinary arrows. They were fine steel arrows that he spent a lot of money to hire NPC craftsmen in the novice village to make. In terms of sharpness, it was not inferior to a 9th-grade weapon. Coupled with a strong explosive force, it was enough to injure and kill any boss. This was a method Wang Wenjing came up with to deal with this powerful boss after the Cold Mountain stronghold was wiped out in the stone forest. After all, there was almost no chance of winning against the 10th-grade martial arts boss in a head-on fight. If one relied on hidden weapons and cold arrows, there was a chance of winning. This method of killing bosses was actually not a secret. Players had already posted it on the forum, and it had been repeatedly verified. Once he missed. Wang Wenjing raised the big bow in his hand, took out 3 more arrows, and knocked them. On the other side, Qin Shujian also looked in the direction of the arrows and saw Wang Wenjing knocking an arrow. The next second, his strong physical strength instantly exploded, and then he stomped his feet. The ground shook, and his body shot out like an arrow. At the same time, Thousand Mountain Blood turned into a rainbow and tore the players in front of it apart. Wang Wenjing's heart suddenly beat wildly. Seeing the blade breaking through the air, he released the bowstring without thinking. The arrow suddenly burst out and fiercely collided with the rainbow of the blade. Boom! It was just a moment. Under the impact of the terrifying power, the arrow was broken in an instant, and then it flew back. In Wang Wenjing's eyes, countless cold lights were magnified. Soon after, he felt a sharp pain in his body. The broken arrow had pierced through his body, directly ending his life. The players standing beside him did not escape the fate of being pierced by the arrows. It all happened in a flash. More than 10 players were killed by the flying arrows. Immediately after. In the end, the rainbow blade fell and cleared all the players in front of it. From the perspective of the entire battlefield, The player faction was originally blocking the entrance of the novice village, fighting against the beasts and bandits. But now, Qin Shujian single-handedly pierced through the entire player camp, creating a temporary gap that couldn't be filled. The novice village was completely exposed to the eyes of others. Qin Shujian ignored the surrounding players, his eyes only focused on the village in front of him. When he stepped into the range of the novice village, the guards guarding the novice village finally made their move. The NPCs in the novice village couldn't easily leave the novice village, so they could only attack when the enemy walked into the novice village. Just as Qin Shujian had always imagined. The stronger the forces in the novice village were, the stronger the NPCs in the novice village would be. In front of him, the guards who attacked gave the feeling that they were at least in the 4th stage of the martial arts realm. There was not much conversation. When the guards attacked, Qin Shujian was one step ahead of them. Qian Shanshui cut through the air with a thunderous force and swept past the guards' bodies in an instant. The guards' movements suddenly stiffened. Then, blood burst out of their bodies and they fell to the ground powerlessly. Everything happened in a split second. By the time the other players reacted, more than half of the guards who attacked had already fallen. Go! Kill! The players who came back to their senses immediately charged forward. If a boss killed his way into the novice village while being blocked by thousands of people, it would be really embarrassing. Moreover, if they were careless and the entire village was destroyed, they would be too ashamed to show their faces. You're courting death! Qin Shujian roared angrily. The strength of the 10th stage of the martial arts realm exploded. The black tiger saber technique of one with the heavens became even more terrifying with the help of Qian Shanshui. At the same time, when the players swarmed forward, in the novice village 7 or 8 powerful auras exploded. Every aura was at least in the 7th stage of the martial arts realm. When they exploded together, their power was not small at all. Qin Shujian also felt it. He looked at his life source. Since the start of the battle, he had already harvested thousands of life sources. He was not far away from 2,000 life sources. As the player's realm increased, the amount of life sources that could be harvested with each kill also increased at a terrifying speed. Currently, apart from the black tiger saber technique that had reached the 10th stage and the one with the heavens, the rest of the techniques could be improved. Shortly after, Qin Shujian's mind moved. 1,400 life sources disappeared. The tiger subduing body honing technique was directly upgraded from the 9th stage to the 10th stage. Boom! The qi and blood that were close to being stagnant seemed to have turned into mercury at this moment. It was as if it had undergone a terrifying transformation. The 2nd level of the tiger subduing King Kong had also become the 3rd level of the tiger subduing King Kong. In an instant, Qin Shujian's skin turned red. It was as if he was in a furnace. A powerful energy that had nowhere to vent was exploding in his body. I've gone too far. This was the thought in Qin Shujian's mind. He did not expect that the upgrade of the tiger's subduing body honing technique would reach the limit of what his body could bear. His skin was faintly red, causing his eyes to be filled with blood vessels. He looked a little scary. This powerful energy that had reached the limit needed to be vented. Qin Shujian took a step forward. He held Qian Shanshui in both hands and suddenly slashed out. The blade emitted a cold light. The terrifying energy attached to the long blade left a trace in the air. Soon after, the terrifying energy exploded on the blade. Boom! The raging wind blew the players away. The cold light from Qian Shanshui cut through the air and headed towards the 3 NPC experts who had jumped out of the novice village. Bang! The 3 NPCs had just jumped into the air when they were cut in half. Blood rained down along with their corpses. With one slash, he directly killed 3 experts who were at least of the 7th stage of the martial arts realm. Before the other players could be shocked, Qin Shujian had already raised his blade. It was as if thunder was shaking. He had completely started his killing spree. The 3 NPCs' bodies had just fallen to the ground. The other NPC experts who had rushed over from the novice village had just arrived. When they saw the corpses on the ground, their faces were filled with shock. Obviously, they did not understand why, in just a few seconds, their companions who were not weaker than them had died. They did not have time to think too much. Qin Shujian, who had started his killing spree, jumped up. When he used his strength to split the mountain, the terrifying wind blade enveloped the 5 NPC experts who had just arrived. Dodge! Feeling the wind blade of death, all the NPCs' faces changed. Just as they were dodging, the blade had already fallen. Rumble! The ground trembled. The blade remained. An NPC standing in the middle could not dodge in time and was directly cut in half. As for the other NPCs who had dodged, they were also hit by the wind. Their internal organs were displaced, and they almost could not breathe. This terrifying power had completely exceeded the limits of what they could endure. However, the injuries on their bodies were not as shocking as the scene in front of them. Looking at Qin Shujian, who was holding Qian Shanxue, they only felt that they were facing an undefeatable existence. Looking at the bloodshot eyes that had not completely faded, they felt an inexplicable chill in their hearts. An expert. An undefeatable expert. Who dares to cause trouble here? You're courting death. Boom! A powerful aura exploded from the novice village. A furious voice came like rolling thunder. Immediately after, they saw a white-clothed old man leaping into the air. Quick, stop him! Seeing this scene, some of the players immediately came back to their senses and shouted in fear. In an instant, the other players also came back to their senses. Suddenly, a group of people abandoned Qin Shujian and rushed toward the white-clothed old man. The white-clothed old man was forcefully stopped. He said with an unhappy expression, "Young heroes, now that there are enemies invading, why don't you follow me to kill the enemies? Why are you blocking my way?" Hearing this, many players blushed with shame. You're old, do a good deed and don't come out. As long as you don't die, our novice village still has hope. Before, they were not sure if the village chief of the novice village was a match for the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. But when he killed several NPCs of the martial arts level 8 with one strike, they saw the reality clearly. That terrifying power. Even if the village chief of the novice village came, he would still die. So when they saw the white-clothed old man rushing over, some players reacted and hurriedly went to stop the village chief's plan to die. As long as the village chief did not die, they might still have a chance to win if they used the human wave tactic. If the village chief was killed, then everything would be in vain. However, these words were only in the minds of the players. They would not directly say it out loud. This guy is ferocious and his aura is at its peak. Why don't we first exhaust a part of his strength? Then, village chief, you can kill him in one blow and save the building. That's right. How can I let you fight in front and hide on the side alone? The white-clothed old man flung his sleeves and angrily rebuked. If I'm afraid of death, then I'm not worthy of being the village chief. While speaking, he directly forced the players in front of him to retreat and walked toward Qin Shujian. There, the players were still rushing forward, but they were still one-sidedly crushed. Seeing this, the players who blocked the village chief of the novice village only had a big word in their hearts. Isn't it good to live well? Why do you have to go and die? Chapter 99. Invading my village, die! The white-clothed old man's posture was aloof as he struck out with his palm, setting off a strong wind. Under the cloud-like indifferent true energy, endless killing intent was hidden. This palm. The surrounding players were forced to retreat. As for the target, it was Qin Shujian, who was in the middle of a massacre. Looking at the peerless power of the palm, Qin Shujian moved his feet, holding the 1,000 mountain blood with both hands. The biting cold blade light instantly burst out, turning into a black tiger in the air, directly disappearing into the clouds. In an instant, the terrifying blade light exploded, directly tearing the clouds into pieces. Immediately after, the black tiger tore through the clouds, turning into a deadly blade light, charging straight at Wang Yan. It seemed like a moment had passed. But it also seemed like a long time had passed. When the blade light disappeared, it seemed like everything had stopped. But then, the white-clothed old man's expression froze, a bloody mark appeared on his forehead, spreading down. Village 51,169's village chief Wang Yan has died. Village 51,169's village chief has died. The core token is ownerless. You can go to the center of the village to fight for the token. Village 51,169's village chief Wang Yan has died. The mandatory mission has failed. Your realm has dropped by 3 levels. The experience you gain for the next 10 days will be reduced by 50%. The mission failure prompt woke the other players up. Immediately after, they saw all the players' auras suddenly drop to the extreme. A dozen 6th level martial arts level players were surrounding and killing Neo Feng. Suddenly, the mission failure prompt came, and then their realms dropped to the 3rd level of the martial arts level. This sudden change. Without waiting for the players to react, they saw a 9-ring broadsword heavily chopping at them. The terrifying power sent the dozen or so players who were besieging them flying. Poochie! In the air, the players spat out blood, and before they landed, they were directly shaken to death by this violent power. A 6th level martial arts level against an 8th level martial arts level, relying on the number of people could barely support. But a 3rd level martial arts level against an 8th level martial arts level. Only death awaited them then. Such a scene. It didn't just appear here. Failing the mandatory mission and dropping by 3 levels was simply a nightmarish blow to the players. What's going on? Are those people in the village useless? F***CK, how did the village chief die so quickly? What the hell? The remaining players were all enraged. They were fighting with their lives on the front lines. Only Cold Mountain's stronghold master had managed to kill his way in. There were at least 1,000 players in the novice village. Even if they couldn't besiege and kill the Cold Mountain stronghold master, it shouldn't be a problem to stop him. No one had expected this. Not even 10 minutes had passed since the other party charged in and failed the mission. However, no matter how angry the players were, it was useless. In the early stages of the game, they were weakened to the level of the floor. Even if the players could continuously revive, it was still a one-sided battle. In the novice village, Wang Yan's body fell to the ground. The village chief of the novice village did not even manage to withstand a single blow, and died under Qin Shujian's saber. He had pushed the tiger's subduing body tempering art to the 10th level. Even Qin Shujian himself did not know what level his strength had reached. This was a mixed and violent power. Even his physical body was almost unable to withstand it, and collapsed. However, as the destructive saber slashed out, the full power was vented. Qin Shujian felt the swelling in his body ease up a lot. His qi and blood also gradually calmed down. The situation changed too quickly. The players did not even think that Wang Yan, the village chief, would die so quickly. By the time they reacted, the matter was already a foregone conclusion. They felt the weakness in their bodies. It was the discomfort caused by the sudden drop in level. Looking at Qin Shujian standing in front of Wang Yan's corpse, these players suddenly did not know what to do. Fight? They definitely could not beat him. If it was before they failed the mission, with their level and numbers, they still had a chance of winning. However, after failing the mission, their level dropped by 3 levels. Even the current top high-level players were only around the 3rd level of the martial arts realm. One side was the 3rd level of the martial arts realm. One side was the 10th level of the martial arts realm. Moreover, it was a big boss that could kill the novice village chief, who was also at the 10th level of the martial arts realm. Even if the other party stood there and did not fight back, whether or not they would be able to fight was still an unknown question. However, the players did not make a move, but it did not mean that Qin Shujian would not make a move. After killing Wang Yan and harvesting a wave of life sources, his gaze fell on the other players and the remaining few NPC experts. In his eyes, These were all walking sources of life. Swish! Qin Shijian's body suddenly moved. The Thousand Mountain blood exploded with a sharp cold light, directly enveloping the few stunned NPCs on the side. Compared to the endless stream of players, it was more meaningful to kill these high-level NPCs first. There were no accidents. Facing this fatal saber, those NPCs at the 7th or 8th level of the martial arts realm did not even have the chance to fight back. Their lives were directly taken by the saber. Immediately after, Qin Shijian stepped on the 5 elements 8 trigrams. His figure was like a ghost as he shuttled through the players. The shocking saber light shone brightly in the scorching sun, harvesting the lives of one player after another. Facing such a massacre, the players were not completely without courage. However, the difference in strength was there. Any resistance was futile. Boom! Hundreds of figures rushed in again. Master! Qin Shijian looked over and saw Niu Feng, Su Yuanming, and the others. They were still at the 8th level of the martial arts realm. After all, at their level, only players at the 5th level of the martial arts realm and above could give them a chance to break through. However, there were not many players at the 5th level of the martial arts realm and above. In addition, now that their realms had all dropped, there was nothing to see. Niu Feng, take some people to the center of the village and guard the core token. Without my orders, no one is allowed to enter. Otherwise, kill without mercy. Qin Shijian immediately ordered. Yes. Hearing this, Niu Feng immediately led a dozen bandits and charged toward the center of the village. An 8th level of the martial arts realm boss leading a group of 6th or 7th level of the martial arts realm elite NPCs. In the camp of players, whose strongest was only at the 3rd level of the martial arts realm, it was like entering an unstoppable place. The rest of you follow me. Qin Shijian ordered Su Yuanming and the others. After speaking, he directly tore a hole in the middle of the players and charged toward the other side of the village. Behind him, the bandits of the Cold Mountain stronghold followed closely. It was also at this moment that a terrifying figure violently charged in. The scales on the Ox Demon Lord's huge body were shattered. Occasionally, arrows would pierce into his flesh. However, this degree of injury was insignificant to his huge body. Stronghold Master Qin! The Ox Demon Lord sent several players flying with his head and stomped a few to death with his hooves. A thunderous voice came from his mouth. Cows can speak! Monster? The players who were fighting with their lives on the side all had faces of astonishment. This was because from start to finish, the Ox Demon Lord had never spoken. They also did not know that the Ox Demon Lord could speak. Now that they saw it, they could not help but feel a sense of horror. I'll have to trouble the Ox Demon Cave to kill the remaining players. Qin Shijian's voice came from afar. The Ox Demon Lord's ferocious head revealed a cruel smile. No problem. Leave these players to my Ox Demon Cave. After speaking, the Ox Demon Lord roared angrily. Thousands of beasts responded one after another. Several elite-level beasts broke through the defense line of the players and directly gathered beside him. Kill all the players! The Ox Demon Lord directly ordered. After that, the beasts' attacks became crazy again. On the other side, Qin Shijian walked forward unwaveringly. Every time he waved his blade, there would be a player in front of him who would die. His goal was very clear. That was to find the resurrection point of the players. According to his experience playing games, as the resurrection point of the players in the novice village, there would definitely be a fixed resurrection point. However, in the previous 2 attacks on the village, he was anxious about the core token and did not think about finding the resurrection point of the players. However, this time, Qin Shijian put the matter of the core token aside. He wanted to find the resurrection point of the players first. There were some things. He wanted to personally verify it. Not long after, a platform that looked like a square appeared in Qin Shijian's line of sight. Around the square, there was a layer of green light screen. In the square, white light would appear from time to time. One by one, the players who died were constantly being resurrected. Why is the Liang Mountain Chieftain here? There were players who had just been resurrected. When they saw Qin Shijian rushing towards the resurrection point, there was a trace of confusion and hesitation in their angry faces. According to the video on the forum, the boss in front of them should not have appeared at the resurrection point. He should have gone to the center of the village to obtain the core token. Wait! Suddenly, a player was shocked and angry. He pointed to the front and shouted, "Look, what is he trying to do?" There was no need for that person to remind them. The others also saw the changes in front of them. They saw Qin Shijian instructing the bandits behind him to kill all the players outside the resurrection point. Then, the bandits suddenly spread out and occupied the entire periphery of the resurrection point. Damn, does this boss want to camp the corpses or torture them? I can't tolerate this. If this spreads, we won't be able to survive. Let's fight it out with them. Let's fight it out. The players were suddenly excited. Right now, they had thrown all thoughts of not being able to fight it out with force and not doing anything pointless. Playing the game. There were two things that they could not tolerate the most. One was camping the corpses. The other was torturing them. In the eyes of these players, Qin Shijian's actions were no different from camping the corpses and torturing the corpses. He had already completely rubbed their faces against the ground. It was already shameful enough that they were killed by a boss as if he was invincible. If they had to camp the corpses and torment the corpses, if this matter spread out, their novice village 51169 would become the laughing stock of the gaming world. Their heads could be cut off. Their blood could be shed. He really couldn't afford to lose face. Chapter 100. The resurrection square wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. It could hold about 2,000 to 3,000 people. Players couldn't attack when they were in the resurrection point. So, these resurrected players immediately charged out of the resurrection circle and charged towards the bandits that surrounded them. Kill any mutants who step out of the circle of light. Qin Shijian's face was cold. 1,000 mountain blood's cold light flashed and killed a dozen players who rushed out. At the same time, he also checked his own source of life and found that it had slowly increased a little from the original foundation. Receiving Qin Shijian's order, the bandits led by Niu Feng, Su Yuanming, and the others all burst out with their strongest attacks and killed the players who rushed out of the resurrection circle one by one. At this time, all the players had died at least once or twice. And some. They had died more than 4 or 5 times. Furthermore, there was the punishment of dropping 3 levels. Among the current players, it wasn't easy to find someone who was at the second stage of the basic realm. More and more, they had fallen to the ground. On the other hand, the bandits. The difference in strength between the two sides was not at the same level. In layman's terms, in terms of attack, defense, and speed, the players couldn't compare to the bandits of Cold Mountain Village. Under the suppression of all aspects, victory or defeat was only a matter of a second. But the players who rushed out, they couldn't hold on for long and were all killed back. Qin Shijian looked at the circle of light around the resurrection square and the players who were rushing out of it. He couldn't help but move his feet. As soon as he moved, it immediately attracted the attention of the other players in the resurrection point. What is this boss doing? Does he really want to torture Quan? Qin Shijian's actions made them mistakenly think that the other party wanted to rush into the resurrection point to kill people. Even if the players knew that they were invincible in the resurrection point. But after seeing Qin Shijian's actions, they still couldn't help but be nervous. Invincible was invincible. But it was hard to say if it also restricted the boss attacks. After all, no boss would attack the resurrection point. And no boss would be crazy enough to command his subordinates to directly surround the resurrection point to guard the corpse. So, it was hard to say. Standing in front of the green circle of light, Qin Shijian could clearly see a layer of almost transparent membrane. It was like a barrier that covered the entire resurrection point. Surround them! Don't let any of the mutants leave the range of the barrier. If a player dared to come out, he would kill one. If 2 players came out, he would kill a pair. Rumble! The ground trembled slightly, as if 10,000 beasts were galloping. Qin Shujian turned around and saw Ox Demon Lord leading hundreds of beasts over. Fort Master Qin, other than the mutants here, we have killed everyone else in the village. Ox Demon Lord reported the results of the battle even before he arrived. It could be seen. The Lord of the Demonic Ox Cave was in an excellent mood. It was no wonder that Ox Demon Lord acted this way. The mutants had been attacking the beasts of the Lion-Tiger Plain, and had even killed their way to the front of the Demon Ox Cave, which made him furious. But there was no end to the mutants. Furthermore, the village was guarded by experts. No matter how powerful the Demon Ox Cave was, they didn't dare to attack the village of the mutants. So Ox Demon Lord had been suppressing his anger. But every mutant who stepped into the territory of the Demon Ox Cave would be attacked fiercely. This was also the reason. This time, when the Cold Mountain Stronghold attacked the novice village, Ox Demon Lord would cooperate. On one hand, he was afraid of Qin Shujian and the strength of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. On the other hand, he wanted to get rid of the cancer-like mutants. Killed them all? Qin Shujian frowned and shifted his gaze back to the resurrection point. It was packed full of people, about 2,000 to 3,000. Including the players who kept rushing out of the resurrection point, the number of people definitely wouldn't exceed 4,000. 4,000 people. Actually, it wasn't a small number. But Qin Shujian was sure that the number of players who showed up from the beginning to the end was definitely more than 4,000. Could it be? His brows gradually knitted together. It seemed that there was only one explanation left. And that was, the resurrection point was full. When it was full, the players who had died couldn't be revived immediately. Only when the resurrection point was empty could the dead players be revived. He had this thought in his mind. Qin Shujian couldn't help but observe. After 3 to 5 minutes, he finally confirmed his guess. It seems that the players can't be revived without limit. If the resurrection point is full, then they can't revive any more players. Qin Shujian looked at the scene in front of him and didn't say anything. Ox Demon Lord had already returned to his original form and stood beside Qin Shujian in his human form. He asked, Stronghold Master Qin, do you need my Demon Ox Cave's help to kill these mutants? He didn't know why Qin Shujian had people surround the barrier and continuously kill these mutants. The fact that the mutants couldn't die wasn't a secret. As long as the mutant village's token was destroyed, then the mutant disaster on the Lion-Tiger Plains would naturally be resolved. However, in order to maintain a good relationship with the Cold Mountain Stronghold, Ox Demon Lord still wanted to show his care. No need. Qin Shujian straightforwardly rejected. What a joke. Only when his subordinates killed the players could he obtain a portion of the life source. If the Demon Ox Cave's monsters killed the players, then he wouldn't obtain any life source at all. Now that he could steadily farm players and harvest life sources, Qin Shujian didn't want anyone to come and take a share of the loot. Ox Demon Lord helplessly shook his head. Alright then. Qin Shujian didn't have time to bother with him right now. Right now, his attention was on his own stats panel. There. Every time his life source jumped, it would be around 10 points. However, in just a short while, he had already obtained over 3,000 life sources. Moreover, this rising trend showed no signs of stopping. Only, when his life source reached 11,000, it suddenly stopped jumping. Qin Shujian immediately came back to his senses from the stats panel. When he looked around, there wasn't a single player rushing out of the resurrection point. He saw that within the resurrection point, the players' faces were ashen. They were no longer as excited as before. Suddenly, Qin Shujian ordered a bandit beside him. Attack this barrier. That bandit didn't hesitate. He immediately swung his sword at the barrier. With a bang, the bandit retreated. The almost transparent barrier didn't even ripple. It was as if it couldn't be shaken at all. Just as that bandit was about to attack again, Qin Shujian waved his hand and said, "Back down. No need to attack anymore." "Yes." The bandit obeyed and retreated. Looking at the resurrection point in front of him, Qin Shujian's expression was indescribable. "Looks like this barrier that protects the resurrection point is just a simple barrier. If this barrier is broken, then won't the players be at my mercy?" Thinking of this, his eyes gradually turned cold. This way, Qin Shujian even thought that he could harvest life sources endlessly. When his life source reached 100,000, 1,000,000, 10,000,000, or even more, how high would his realm be? At that time, perhaps there really wouldn't be any players who could threaten him. Boom! Thousand Mountain blood was wrapped in a biting cold wind and heavily struck the barrier. Immediately after, a strong rebound force came. Qin Shujian held the long sword tightly. His feet were like iron hooks that tightly gripped the ground. At the same time, the mercury-like qi and blood in his body erupted. An even stronger force surged from his body. The rebounding force from the long saber was instantly dispersed by this force. Black Tiger Saber Technique. Fierce Tiger descends the mountain. A black tiger that was several feet in size appeared in the air and finally gathered in the long sword. Qin Shujian's eyes were fierce. The terrifying force contained in Thousand Mountain blood poured out in torrents. In an instant, when the blade slashed, the air swept back like waves. This power. Even through the protective barrier, the players could feel the threat of death. Under everyone's nervous gazes, Yi Zichen said. Thousand Mountain blood landed heavily on the barrier. Buzz, an invisible wave rippled with the two as the center. An even stronger rebound force came from the barrier. Through Thousand Mountain blood, it directly hit Qin Shujian. Whoosh! This time, Qin Shujian didn't take the rebound force head-on. Instead, he chose to retreat and dissipate the force. When his body stopped moving, he looked at the barrier again and found that it was still intact. Immediately, Qin Shujian didn't plan to attack the barrier again. That sword. He had already done his best. According to Qin Shujian's estimation, the barrier might not be able to be broken. Or it could be said that with the strength of basic martial arts, he wasn't qualified to break this barrier. Or else, with his current strength that far surpassed the average 10th stage basic martial arts, coupled with the 5th stage Thousand Mountain blood, how could there be no signs of breaking the barrier? Phew! When the other players saw this, they secretly sighed in relief. It was good that it couldn't be broken. As soon as this thought appeared in their minds, many of the players felt ashamed. When the players had already fallen to the point where they were surrounded by the boss in the resurrection point, and had to worry about the boss rushing in. Could it be that the Inhumans are so weak that they don't even dare to resist? Qin Shujian sneered and mocked, trying to provoke the players' anger. In the end, many players rolled their eyes at him and replied with a hee-hee. That was it. Backbone? Of the players at the resurrection point, which one of them hadn't been killed at least 10 or 20 times? No matter how much backbone they had, they couldn't withstand such consumption. These players were resigned to their fate. Since they couldn't win, they might as well not fight. It was good to just stay at the resurrection point. Anyway, no one would resurrect when it was full and there was no possibility of being squeezed out of the resurrection point. Seeing this, Qin Shujian tried his best to mock a few more times. Unfortunately, the players were stubborn. They didn't have any intention of rushing out to fight him with their lives. In the end, he had to give up the idea of continuing to farm for 1,000,000 or 800,000 points of life. Chapter 101. The players were holed up in the resurrection point. Qin Shujian couldn't do anything about it. For him now, the green barrier of the resurrection point was much harder than a turtle shell. It couldn't be broken at this stage. Since it couldn't be broken, Qin Shujian didn't want to waste any more time here. Watch them. He ordered Wang Taiyu and the other bandit hall masters beside him. After that, Qin Shujian left the resurrection point directly and walked towards the center of the village. Since there was no chance to farm for life sources, then he should get the core token as soon as possible. The matter of lion-tiger plane could be considered to have come to an end for the time being. Qin Shujian left directly. Ox-demon lords stood there awkwardly. They didn't greet him. He didn't know whether to leave or stay. Finally, Ox-demon lord looked at the bandits surrounding the resurrection point. He chose to stay here to avoid going over and asking for trouble. On the other side, Niu Feng led a group of bandits and cleared all the players around the core token. The core token that belonged to Novice Village 51169 was currently floating in the air, shrouded in a faint halo. Outside the halo, the bandits were guarding there. "Chief, all the players have been cleared." Niu Feng had a smile on his face when he saw the person who came. Qin Shujian nodded. "Well done." Hee. Niu Feng smiled honestly. His body consciously made way for him. Qin Shujian walked directly into the halo. 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. "You got Novice Village 51169's core token. You can choose to destroy or absorb. Destroy. The core token will be converted into the corresponding life source. Novice Village 51169 will no longer exist. Absorb. You can get a part of the force's experience." The same message as before. But in the absorption option, there was no prompt to upgrade to a third-level force. From this, it could be seen. A Novice Village's core token was no longer enough to upgrade a second-level force. However, Qin Shujian didn't hesitate and chose to absorb it directly. In his opinion, even if he destroyed the token, he estimated that he would not be able to obtain much life force. Now that he already had more than 10,000 life force sources, he was not lacking any more. "You have absorbed Novice Village 51169's core token." Shortly after, Novice Village 51169's building collapsed with a loud bang. "As the core token has been absorbed by the Lianshan Fort Master, Novice Village 51169 no longer exists. The players who originally belonged to Novice Village 51169 will be assigned to their respective villages. During the distribution period, you will be forced to go offline. Countdown, 5 seconds. At the same time, the players in the resurrection point received the system notification. Inexplicably, the players looked relieved. Compared to being surrounded and guarded by a group of elite NPCs, it was better to just give up. The moment all the players disappeared, the bandits of Cold Mountain Stronghold were no longer surprised. It was the Ox-Demon Lord's first time seeing such a scene. He was slightly surprised, but he wasn't too surprised. At this moment, after absorbing the core token, Qin Shujian brought Niu Feng and the others to meet up with the other bandits. "Fort Master Qin's cultivation is unparalleled. You killed the Inhumans in one fell swoop and solved the crisis of Lion-Tiger Plains. Everyone in Ox-Demon Cave is grateful." Ox-Demon Lord immediately went up and flattered him. These words he often heard the exotic beasts under him say. So Ox-Demon Lord was very familiar with these words. "Killing mutants is our duty. The region of Mount Liang is often troubled by mutants. The reason why we were able to succeed so smoothly this time is all thanks to the help of the demonic Ox Cave." Qin Shujian smiled. "Fort Master Qin is too polite." The Ox-Demon commander laughed out loud, but he found these words to be quite strange. Those who didn't know would think that Lion-Tiger Plains was Cold Mountain Stronghold's territory. Ox-Demon Cave was more like an external force. However, Ox-Demon Lord didn't dare to argue about this matter. Cold Mountain Stronghold looked like they wanted to swallow him up from the start. If he didn't bring up the Qingyun Trading Company in time, Ox-Demon Cave would have followed in the footsteps of the Inhumans. So for this kind of big boss, he would do his best to serve him. As long as he didn't do anything to Ox-Demon Cave, everything was fine. Now that the Inhumans' problem has been solved, does Fort Master Qin want to come with me to Ox-Demon Cave to rest? Ox Demon Lord asked probingly. Qin Shijian shook his head and said, No, the demon disaster is wreaking havoc now. I have to go back and prevent the demon disaster from invading. Ox Demon Cave also has to pay attention to Lian Tiger Plains. Fort Master Qin, don't worry. It's fine if the demon disaster doesn't step out of Immortal Plains. If he dares to step out, he definitely won't be able to return. Ox Demon Lord wasn't afraid at all. Hearing this, Qin Shijian didn't say anything else. Since the Qingyan Trading Company came to Ox Demon Cave, then he would give Gu Feng face. Moreover, Cold Mountain Stronghold's forces had been expanding too quickly recently. They needed some time to digest and convert all their gains into strength on the surface. So after reminding Ox Demon Lord, Qin Shijian directly said this and then left with the mountain bandits. Fort Master Qin, let me send you off. Ox Demon Lord followed closely behind. Qin Shijian didn't refuse. Then they saw a large number of ferocious and mutated beasts galloping across the vast plains. Both parties only stopped when they reached the border between the two places. Qin Shijian said, Up ahead is Liang Mountain's boundary. Fort Master, please return. All right, Fort Master Qin is welcome to visit Ox Demon Cave at any time in the future. Ox Demon Lord also had a serious expression. You've received Ox Demon Cave's permission to enter and leave Lian Tiger Plains as you wish. When the man finished speaking, a system notification popped up in Qin Shijian's mind. Obviously, Ox Demon Lord directly gave Cold Mountain Stronghold permission to enter and leave as they wished in order to be on good terms with Cold Mountain Stronghold. Definitely. Qin Shijian nodded slightly. Ox Demon Lord's decision was actually a wise one. The difference in strength between both parties was obvious. Whether or not he gave them permission to enter and leave Lian Tiger Plains wouldn't cause any changes. If Cold Mountain Stronghold really wanted to attack Ox Demon Cave, whether there would be a notification, it wouldn't change the outcome. Very clearly, the Ox Demon commander was aware of this. After seeing Qin Shijian and the others leave Lian Tiger Plains, Ox Demon Lord's anxious heart finally relaxed. He couldn't help but let out a huge sigh of relief. On the other side, Fort Master, why didn't we just destroy Ox Demon Cave directly? Niu Feng asked in confusion. He could tell. At first, Qin Shijian really did have the intention to attack Ox Demon Cave. It was only when he mentioned the Carrier Trading Company that he dismissed the idea. Niu Feng didn't know much about the Carrier Trading Company. He only had the chance to meet Gu Feng once at Cold Mountain Stronghold. Qin Shijian didn't say anything. Xinghong sneered. Fort Master naturally has his reasons for doing so. The Carrier Trading Company isn't as simple as you think. We can destroy Ox Demon Cave at any time. But if we offend the Carrier Trading Company, we have to weigh the pros and cons. Although he wasn't sure how much information the Carrier Trading Company had. But Chaotic Gold Mountain's information network was much better than Min Gai Mountain's. In addition to Gu Feng's arrival and Qin Shijian's attitude, he could infer that the Carrier Trading Company wasn't a force to be trifled with. Or else, given Fort Master's unyielding character, Ox Demon Cave didn't have a chance to speak from the beginning. After being ridiculed for no reason, Niu Feng was furious. He looked at Xinghong with eyes that seemed to be burning with anger. But considering Gu Feng's strength, he suppressed his anger for the time being. They were both at the 8th level of the basic realm. But there were also differences in strength. But Niu Feng snorted coldly and glared at Xinghong. He gave Xinghong a look that said, "Just wait and see," and didn't say anything else. Qin Shijian naturally noticed their glances, but he didn't stop them. Within a force, it was inevitable that there would be some disputes. Right now, the demon disaster is wreaking havoc on the Undying Plains. Ox Demon Cave is a small matter, but the demon disaster is a big matter. Everything at present is to deal with the demon disaster. In the end, Qin Shijian explained. Currently, Chaotic Stone Forest, Cold Mountain Stronghold, and the novice village on Lian Tiger Plain had all been destroyed. All that was left was the vast endless mountain range and the base of the Shining rebel army. He didn't plan to act yet. The endless mountain range was too mysterious. From the map Gu Feng gave him, it could be seen that the endless mountain range was a huge mountain range that ran through the 13 prefectures of Great Zhao. There were all kinds of terrifying existences within. With Cold Mountain Stronghold's current strength, they didn't have the ability to act wildly there. As for the Shining rebel army, previously, the information hall had sent a few bandits to investigate, but in the end, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no news from them. Before he truly understood the situation of the Shining rebel army, Qin Shujian didn't plan to act against this force. Of course. The main reason was that Cold Mountain Stronghold's strength had increased too quickly. He needed to properly digest it. At this moment, when the Cold Mountain Stronghold bandits returned, a huge uproar occurred on the player forums. Unsurprisingly, the scene of the village siege on Lian Tiger Plain was still uploaded to the forums. Compared to the previous 2 videos of villages being attacked and exterminated, the commotion caused by the video this time was much greater. In the previous 2 sieges, Cold Mountain Stronghold displayed their absolute strength and directly took the core token. From beginning to end, they charged forward recklessly, killing the players without any resistance. But this time, Cold Mountain Stronghold and Ox Demon Cave didn't just charge forward recklessly. The Cold Mountain Stronghold chief, a famous boss, was even more tyrannical. He directly insta-killed the novice village chief. His strength shocked all the players. In the previous siege, although the Cold Mountain Stronghold chief was also extremely tyrannical, he wasn't able to insta-kill the strongest player in the novice village. Therefore, the change in Qin Shujian's strength shocked the players. Aside from this point, the scene that attracted the players' attention the most was the scene where the players surrounded the respawn point and directly camped the corpses. An NPC camped the players' corpses. To everyone, this sounded like something out of a fantasy story. But now, it was happening right in front of their eyes. Even the players from other novice villages. When they watched the video, they could almost feel the despair of the players from Novice Village 51169. Chapter 102. First comment: damn, this Liangshan gang master is too ruthless. Second comment: Sha Quan is guarding the corpses. This is rubbing the faces of the players from Novice Village 51169 on the ground. Third comment: TSK. There was a lot of discussion on the forum. It was not strange for Sha Quan to guard the corpses to happen among the players. If it was spread on the forum, at most, it would be despised. However, NPCs guarding the corpses of players. This was the first time this happened. It had a completely different meaning. Apart from this matter, there was another matter that caused a heated discussion among the players. That was, the game was updated. It was not an offline update but a direct online update. There was no announcement before this, which was very abrupt. As for the update content, there were only 2. The player's respawn interval is 10 minutes. For every additional death on the day, the respawn interval will be extended by 10 minutes. The maximum duration will not exceed 1 hour. Remove the restriction on the respawn point. Players' respawn is no longer limited to the respawn point. They can respawn randomly in any public area in the novice village. These 2 updates. It directly made some players think of what happened in Novice Village 51169. Especially the last one. It was more like a deliberate update to prevent NPCs from guarding the corpses. Logically speaking, this should be a good thing. However, the previous update seemed to be restricting the players. Before the update, there was almost no interval between players' respawn. In order to deal with monsters and bosses, many teams relied on this almost endless number of players to win. Now after the update, this advantage that he could take advantage of was gone in an instant. Under the increase and decrease, It was completely impossible to say whether this update was good or bad. However, there were some players who hated this update to the core. Immortal Plains, Novice Village 17561. When the update appeared, all the players' faces completely darkened. What's with the update? This is forcing us into a dead end. Damn it! Many players were angrily cursing. Now that the Immortal Plains had been conquered by the undead skeletons, only they were left here struggling at death's door. The reason why they could resist the demon disaster until now. It wasn't because of how strong they were, but because they were able to resurrect continuously, making full use of their advantage in numbers. Furthermore, the demonic disaster did not have a boss as powerful as the Cold Mountain Fort Master. Naturally, it was impossible for the demonic disaster to force its way into the beginner's village and wipe out the entire beginner's village. The foundation of all this. It was all because of the advantage of resurrection. But now that the game had been updated, the player's advantage of resurrection was instantly gone. How could they accept that? Why did the game update at this time? Chin Chin slashed an undead skeleton in front of him with 3 slashes and muttered to himself in shock. Beside him, they were Su Ziqing and Wu Quan. When the 3 of them released the undead evil lord, they were like grasshoppers tied to a rope. After a few days of fishing in troubled waters and killing skeletons, he had basically recovered his original level of 0. Su Ziqing's beautiful face turned pale and unsightly as she cried out involuntarily. If that's the case, I'm afraid we won't be able to block the attacks of these skeletons. He couldn't block the attack. This meant that the mission had failed, and the village had been destroyed. This loss could not be easily borne at any time. Chen Chen said seriously. The source of the demonic disaster should be the thing that broke the seal in the valley. These skeletons are endless, and it's not possible to kill them alone. Right now, the only way to solve the demonic disaster is to get rid of the source. Wait, there's a boss. Wu Quan directly interrupted Chen Chen's words and pointed to the front. Hearing this, Chen Chen and Su Ziqing looked in the direction he pointed. There, a skeleton wrapped in bone armor with only the red flames in its eye sockets left. It was riding on a skeleton horse burning with white flames and holding a bone spear in its hand, exuding an intimidating aura. The surrounding undead skeletons didn't dare to approach and consciously circled around this skeleton knight. Chen Chen reacted immediately. Let's go! There were many undead skeletons around, and now there was a suspected boss monster. It was completely impossible for the 3 of them to deal with it. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Ziqing and Wu Quan also immediately withdrew. However, they ran fast, but the skeleton knight was even faster. The bone horse moved silently, and the white flames fell on the ground, burning everything it touched. The skeleton knight held the bone spear and rushed forward in an instant. At the same time, a large number of skeleton knights appeared on the immortal plane and appeared in the battlefield where the players were fighting. These skeleton knights were extremely fast and powerful. The weakest ones were only at the 6th level of the martial arts realm, and the strongest ones had even reached the 8th level of the martial arts realm. For the players at this stage, they were almost at the level of elite monsters and boss monsters. It was already difficult enough to deal with the undead skeletons. Now that there were skeleton knights of a higher realm, the players suddenly showed a one-sided situation. In the valley, the undead demon lord sat on the throne of bones. At this time, the aura on his body had become stronger than when he had just broken the seal. Not enough, far from enough. If I want to recover, I need more power. The blue flames in the undead demon lord's eye sockets danced. He drove the undead skeletons to slaughter the creatures in the immortal plane, to plunder enough energy for him to recover from his previous injuries. However, the creatures in an underworld were limited, and the undead demon lord was also not an ordinary expert. Even if he slaughtered all the creatures in an underworld, he would still be far from recovering to his peak state. For the undead demon lord, an immortal plane, or even the entire ordinary realm, was an existence that he could destroy with a wave of his hand. If it wasn't for the fact that he was worried about the experts outside of the ordinary realm and his injuries were too serious, he would have led the undead army to rush out of the ordinary realm and march to this side of the world. Why would he still need to invade one realm after another? All of a sudden, the black and red fog surged and the last mirror made of bones directly appeared in front of the undead demon lord. On the black mirror, many undead skeletons and skeleton knights appeared. And the ones fighting with the undead skeletons and skeleton knights were the players from the beginner village. Facing the skeleton knights that suddenly appeared. Although the players were retreating. However, with the number of players, they were still not defeated and were barely able to withstand the attack. Inhumans are really a magical race! The undead demon lord looked at the players in the mirror and a hoarse voice came from behind the bone armor mask. Unfortunately, any race is weak in front of the evil demon race. After that, the undead demon lord suddenly stood up from the skeleton throne and the black and red fog trembled crazily. Immediately after, his withered fingers were stained with blood as he carved in the void before his eyes. Streaks of mysterious vein patterns emerged from within and were arranged in a regular pattern. More than 10 minutes later, the undead demon lord retracted his fingers and saw the lines in the void in front of him converging. As if it had triggered some strange energy, the blood light suddenly shone brightly. Soon after, a blood-red halo of light that was 3 feet tall appeared. The undead demon lord pulled out the bone sword from the skeleton throne and then stepped directly into the blood light circle. Beginner Village 17561. On the battlefield where the players and the undead skeletons were fighting, a blood-red halo suddenly appeared. Then a terrifying evil aura overflowed from it. All the skeletons seemed to have been stimulated at this time, and their attacks suddenly became more violent. What is this thing? Some players looked at this strange scene and their faces were full of shock. Now that the demon disaster was raging, every uncontrollable change could touch their nerves. In the blood light circle, a skeleton covered in bone armor with blue flames burning in its eye sockets and holding a bone sword stepped out. Immediately, the black and red fog instantly covered the sky, as if darkness had arrived. Boss. Big boss. The moment they saw the undead demon lord appear, this thought appeared in the minds of all the players who saw it. On the opponent's body, they felt an endless pressure, as well as an extremely terrifying evil aura. This was something that all the undead skeletons and even the skeleton knights did not have. The other party stood there as if he was a natural king. The players couldn't help but want to worship and prostrate themselves. Suddenly, some players woke up and hurriedly shouted, "A big boss has appeared, everyone be careful. This boss is not simple, pay attention to intercept." The players' camp immediately moved. The remaining high-level players all rushed towards the skeleton boss that appeared in the blood light circle. The undead demon lord stood in place and quietly looked at the players' nervous movements. The blue flames in its eye sockets kept jumping. "I am the undead demon lord!" A hoarse and low voice echoed in everyone's ears. Then the undead demon lord raised the bone sword in its hand. "Any existence that goes against me will be embraced by the abyss of death." On the bone sword, the dark red flames burned wildly. Looking at the undead demon lord's actions, the conscious players suddenly shouted, "The boss is going to use a big move, interrupt him!" Although they had never seen a boss that used a big move as soon as it appeared. But it didn't stop them from wanting to interrupt the boss's big move. Suddenly, some players who rushed to the front of the undead demon lord had already launched attacks in their hands. Evil Spirit Slash! The blue flames in the undead demon lord's eye sockets seemed to reflect the appearance of the players. The bone sword in its hand slashed down. Boom! The dark red flames erupted in an instant. A condensed blood arc burst out from the bone sword. In an instant, it became several feet in size. Like a flowing light blade, with a speed that was almost invisible to the naked eye, it directly swept past the players in front of it and rushed to the battlefield behind them. All the existence that touched the blood-colored blade light, whether it was players or undead skeletons, all exploded at this moment. Immediately after, the bloody mist that exploded instantly fused with the blood-colored blade light, causing it to become even more powerful. Moreover, it continued to slash forward without stopping. Rumble! Chapter 103. The blood-red blade light dissipated. There were dozens of gullies on the ground, with the undead evil lord as the starting point, all the way into the novice village. Within this range, whether it was the players, the undead skeletons, or the skeleton knights, they all disappeared. The remaining players were stunned on the spot. A big move killed 90% of the players on the field. In other words, thousands of players were all sent back to revive under this sword. How could they fight this? The two sides were not on the same level at all. Is this really a boss of the 10th stage of the martial arts? Some players moaned helplessly in their hearts. In the ordinary realm, how could there be such a terrifying existence? Didn't they agree? Everyone in the ordinary realm was considered a novice character. Was there no existence beyond the 10th stage of the martial arts? All of a sudden, the remaining players looked at the terrifying undead evil lord and once again felt the deep malice of this game. The blue flames in the undead evil lord's eyes jumped. His hoarse voice was filled with evil. Go kill! Immediately, those undead skeletons and skeleton knights that had stopped because of the undead evil lord's power once again attacked the players. This time, with the undead evil lord in charge, the remaining players were almost unable to raise the slightest storm. More than 13,000 life sources. Can it break the shackles of the ordinary realm? Qin Shujian looked at the life sources on the status panel and suddenly had the illusion of a nouveau riche. It could be said, this trip to the Lion-Tiger Plain, although they did not take down the Ox-Demon Cave, but they indirectly destroyed a novice village, the harvest was not small. Especially the acquisition of life sources, it was divided by the realm. The higher the realm, the more life sources they contributed. The players in the novice village 51169 were generally around the 4th stage of the martial arts, and there was no lack of 6th stage of the martial arts. This kind of strength was naturally not easy to deal with. But correspondingly, the amount of life sources they contributed was also very high. This time, the attack on the village directly caused the life sources to break through 5 digits. 5 digits of life sources. On the status panel, behind all the skills, there was a deduced plus sign, including the black tiger saber technique that had not made any moves. Qin Shujian looked at his own status. His expression was somewhat uncertain. The further he went on the 10th stage of the martial arts, the more he could feel some kind of restriction, suppressing his path forward. This kind of restriction. This was the shackles of the ordinary realm. If he wanted to break free of this restriction, he would either have to leave the ordinary realm, or rely on his own strength to break free. Qin Shujian had always taken the second path. 3 10th level cultivation techniques have already raised my strength to the limit of my current realm. If I go any further, I'm afraid there's a risk of my body exploding. He didn't forget the changes his body underwent when he raised the tiger subduing body tempering art to the 10th level during the attack on the village. That was a sign of reaching a limit. Even though his physical body was slowly improving under the nourishment of his abundant blood and qi, this kind of improvement could only be described as extremely slow when he reached the limit of the ordinary realm. Until now, he could only barely allow his body to contain the powerful qi and blood force so that he would not lose control again. If he continued to increase the level of his cultivation, the accumulated power would very likely exceed the limits of his body. The consequences of exceeding the limit were simple. Qin Shujian shook his head as he imagined his body exploding with a bang and blood splattering everywhere. He was still young. He didn't have any plans to die young. But as his mind fell on the 10th level of the body tempering art, Qin Shujian once again felt the danger from the unseen world. Even if the danger this time was lower than before. But it also meant that there was still a certain distance between him and the ordinary realm. In terms of cultivation techniques, there's no room for improvement. If I forcefully increase other cultivation techniques, the result would be my body exploding. But if I forcefully break through, I may encounter the danger of death. As expected, the ordinary realm shackles aren't that easy to break. Qin Shujian helplessly shook his head. He suddenly felt somewhat puzzled. How did those people who broke through the ordinary realm's shackles and became the domain lord do it? One had to know that his current strength had already reached the limit of the 10th level of the martial realm. If he went any further, his body would explode and he would die. It couldn't be that those people who broke through the ordinary realm's shackles could go further than him. Qin Shujian's face was somewhat melancholy. Looking at the 10,000 points of life source, he felt that it wasn't that good anymore. After hesitating for a long time, he temporarily gave up on the idea of breaking through the ordinary realm's shackles. It wasn't that he didn't dare to face the unseen danger, but now wasn't the best time. According to the things that Gu Feng gave him, once the ordinary realm's shackles were broken, then the entire ordinary realm would be upgraded. This way, the 10th level of the martial realm would no longer be the limit. Qin Shujian didn't forget that next door there was an evil demon that broke through the shackles. Now that there was the suppression of the ordinary realm's shackles, the evil demon might only be at the 10th level of the martial realm. But without the suppression of the shackles, the evil demon's cultivation might directly skyrocket. Forget it, let's first deal with the demon disaster, and then think about the ordinary realm's shackles. Qin Shujian put down the impulse in his heart, and his gaze fell on the black tiger saber technique. This cultivation technique that allowed him to reach the one with the world level had always been of great help to him. The reason why he was able to surpass others in the 10th level of the martial realm was because of the 3 10th level cultivation techniques, and the help given by the black tiger saber technique. Qin Shujian once thought that the one with the world level was the limit of this cultivation technique. But now it seemed this cultivation technique hadn't reached the limit yet. The reason why he didn't have the chance to deduce before was because he didn't have enough life source. Glancing at the 5-digit life source, Qin Shujian directly waved his hand. Anyway, he had more life source than he could use. Rather than wasting it, he might as well convert it into his own strength as much as possible. Maybe the next level of the black tiger saber technique could increase his chances of breaking through the ordinary realm's shackles. Upgrade! Following Qin Shujian's thought. Suddenly, he saw the life source quickly decrease at the speed of flowing water. At the same time, Qin Shujian only felt his vision go black. In the next moment, he saw himself appear in a lonely void. There. It was as if countless flowing lights were flying. In his eyes, these flowing lights were the complete black tiger saber technique. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Shocking 100 miles. Fierce tiger turns around. The 318 moves of the black tiger saber technique appeared one by one in front of Qin Shujian, and then slowly disappeared. Roar! In the sky above the cold mountain village, the shadow of a black tiger suddenly appeared. It opened its mouth and roared. The roar traveled 100 miles and intimidated all the beasts to lie still. In the lion-tiger plain, the ox-demon lord woke up from his deep sleep. In his bell-sized eyes there was a look of panic. In that moment just now, he felt a great power that made his mind tremble. But this power came quickly and disappeared quickly, making the ox-demon lord mistakenly think that he had a nightmare. The panic in his bell-sized eyes gradually disappeared and turned into some doubts. Finally, he closed them again. Heavy snoring could be heard once again. Chapter 104. The bandits of Cold Mountain Stockade were also shocked. Looking up at the gradually fading black tiger phantom in the air, they didn't know what to say. In the room, Qin Shujian opened his closed eyes. A wisp of black light flashed in his eyes. A faint majestic aura filled the room. Then, Qin Shujian looked at the attribute panel again. The column related to the Black Tiger Saber technique had changed. The access level! The Black Tiger Saber technique, which was originally at the oneness of heaven and man level, had evolved to the access level. The words, middle grade mortal level, had completely disappeared. It was as if it had reached the access level. The Black Tiger Saber technique had broken free of the shackles of its grade and completed a transformation. However, when his attention slid down and landed on the life force column, Qin Shujian's face suddenly darkened. Life force, 3129 previously, it had more than 13,000 points of life force. Now, it was only left with more than 3,000 points. This meant that after upgrading the Black Tiger Saber technique to the next level, it consumed 10,000 points of life force. Hiss! Qin Shujian couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He felt a dull pain in his heart. 10,000 points of life force. This was enough to upgrade two techniques that had just reached the first level to the peak of the 10th level. However, what was done could not be undone. Qin Shujian could only accept his fate. However, he thought of the scene he saw when the Black Tiger Saber technique was upgraded to the access level. Qin Shujian opened his palm and drew a straight line in front of him. Buzz! The air trembled as if it had been hit by something. Then, he saw the wooden table 10 feet away from him quietly split into two. The cut was smooth and clean, as if it had been cut by a divine weapon. Saber intent! Qin Shujian revealed a faint smile on his face. After upgrading to the access level, the Black Tiger Saber technique was no longer limited to the original 3 moves and 18 styles. It allowed people to comprehend some kind of true essence. Although it hadn't been used in actual combat, Qin Shujian believed that the Black Tiger Saber technique, which had broken through to the access level, had definitely caused his strength to undergo a terrifying transformation. As expected, when his consciousness once again landed on the body forging scripture, he was stunned. That kind of vague threat had already become weak. Even the shackles on his body seemed like they could be torn apart at any moment. This proved it. As long as he wanted to, he could break the shackles of the ordinary realm at any time and reach a whole new realm. However, Qin Shujian suppressed this impulse. Since the shackles of the ordinary realm were no longer a problem, it would be better to deal with the demons first. Subsequently, he left the room. Outside, Xingfang and the others were already waiting. Qin Shujian was in a good mood now that he had solved the problem of the ordinary realm's shackles. Seeing the group, he couldn't help but ask, "Why are you all gathered here?" "Zhaizhu, just now the shadow of a black tiger appeared on Mount Liang. The tiger's roar intimidated all the other beasts. Do you know?" Xingfang wanted to say something, but stopped himself. What he wanted to ask was whether Qin Shujian's cultivation had improved again. After all, the black tiger silhouette that appeared was very familiar. In many battles with the enemy, he had seen Qin Shujian use this method. It was just that asking about his own Zhaizhu was an act of overstepping his boundaries, so he couldn't ask directly. Hearing this, Qin Shujian only thought about it and roughly understood what was going on. He smiled and said, "That's just me comprehending a cultivation technique. Don't be nervous. Congratulations to Zhaizhu for mastering the divine art and making great progress in your cultivation." Zheng Fang bowed. Su Yuanming and the others also hurriedly said good things. All right. How are the arrangements for the newly recruited youths?" Qin Shujian waved his hand and looked at Jing Fang. Hearing this, Jing Fang cupped his hands and said, "Reporting to Zhaizhu, after 2 consecutive days of work, the village below Mount Lian has begun to take shape. It won't be a problem to temporarily settle these people. In addition, the first 3 layers of the body forging scripture have also been taught. It's just that most of these youths are illiterate. If they want to learn the cultivation technique, I'm afraid it will take some time. Hurry up, I'll have to trouble Hall Master Jing. This is what this old man should do." Seeing this, Qin Shujian didn't say anything more on this issue. Xingfan used to be a private school teacher and a martial arts club master. Whether it was learning to read or teaching cultivation techniques, it was his old profession. In the field of teaching and dispelling doubts, naturally, it would be left to the professionals. Immediately after, Qin Shujian said again, "The Intelligence Hall should pay close attention to the immortal planes. If the devil disaster moves out of the immortal planes, you must report it immediately." This subordinate obeys. Wang Taizhu lowered his head and replied, "You can all disperse." Cheng Fang and the others immediately bowed and retreated. Qin Shujian walked alone in Mount Liang village. The joy from the advancement of the Black Tiger Saber technique gradually faded. As for the devil disaster, he also thought of the agreement with Gu Feng. Unfortunately, it had been 3 days since the other party left the Cold Mountain Stockade, but there was still no news from them. Even the promised reward was nowhere to be seen. If the weapons and treasures were in place, Qin Shujian was confident that Mount Liang village's strength would increase by at least 50%. Devil disaster, evil demon! Qin Shujian stepped on a mountain rock and looked into the distance. That was the location of the immortal plains. After the Black Tiger Saber technique reached the path initiation level, he seemed to have undergone some kind of transformation. When he looked at the immortal plains, he could see that the sky was filled with black and red chi, as if it had turned into a demonic domain. The ominous aura made Qin Shujian frown. Although he hadn't fought with the evil demon before, just by looking at the aura, he knew that the other party was difficult to deal with. "I just don't know how big the gap is between me and the evil demon that broke the seal." On the other side, the original location of Novice Village 17561 had now turned into ruins. The undead demon lord stepped on the ruins, the blue flame in his eye sockets flickered with a strange evil aura. All the undead skeletons around stopped their killing. They turned to the undead demon lord's position and prostrated themselves. Even the skeleton knights riding on the skeleton horses lowered their proud heads. The entire immortal plains. Suddenly, they fell into a strange silence. Looking at the prostrating skeletons, the undead demon lord's withered fingers casually moved in front of him. In an instant, boom! The sky changed color. Purple lightning lingered in the sky, as if something sleeping was about to wake up. Suddenly, the undead demon lord stopped his movements, the head wrapped in bone armor looked up at the sky, and stared at the purple lightning. After a long time, he retracted his gaze, but did not do the same thing again. Shackles? The undead demon lord shook his head slightly, and said with a smile and anger, "This world is still so unfriendly to my evil demon clan." Then, the bone sword pierced through the air, and a dark red flame ignited. "My subjects, listen to my command, go and plunder more lives." In an instant, the evil aura filled the air. Chapter 105. How many skeletons were buried in the Undying Plains? Even with the Undying Demon Lord's current strength, he couldn't revive all the skeletons. But reviving a part of them wasn't a problem. And the number of skeletons in this part was in the tens of thousands, or even in the hundreds of thousands. These subjects of the Undying Domain officially stepped out of the Undying Plains after receiving the Undying Demon Lord's order. Liang Mountain's boundary. When the devil disaster appeared, Qin Shujian had already ordered people to be stationed here at all times to prevent the devil disaster from crossing the boundary. When the tide of undead skeletons descended, the undead skeletons it immediately attracted the attention of Liang Mountain's stronghold. Awu! The bandit who saw the skeletons first immediately gave a warning. Soon. Awu! Awu! One after another, the alarms rang out one after another. Soon, it spread throughout the entire Liang Mountain's boundary. It also reached the ears of Liang Mountain's stronghold. In the Loyalty Hall, Qin Shujian, who heard the warning, immediately stood up. At the same time, Wang Taizhu hurriedly rushed in from the outside. The moment he saw Qin Shujian, he hurriedly reported, Leader, those skeletons have walked out of the Undying Plains. Pass down my order, fight! Yes. Looking at Wang Tieju's hurriedly leaving back, Qin Shujian also walked out of the Loyalty Hall. He had been worried about something. Finally it came. Compared to before the Devil Disaster, now that the Devil Disaster had officially spread to the Liang Mountains boundary, Qin Shujian calmed down. To be honest, now that Liang Mountain stronghold had been promoted to a second-class force, its overall strength was considered top in the ordinary realm. Even in the face of the legendary Devil Disaster and demons, he had enough confidence. However, Qin Shujian suddenly thought of something. That was bordering the Undying Plains, there seemed to be a stone forest. Men! A bandit immediately came in front of him. Leader, what are your orders? Inform Miao Feng and Xinghong to kill the Devil Disaster invading the stone forest with all their strength. If there are any changes, report to me immediately. Yes, leader! The bandit immediately accepted the order and retreated. After that, the entire Cold Mountain stronghold began to move. The Cold Mountain stronghold had 1,200 men. Excluding the 700 young and strong men, there should have been more than 500 bandits left. However, in the previous battle on the Lion-Tiger Plains, dozens of bandits had died, and they still hadn't respawned. Due to the fact that the bandits were generally at a higher level, it was much more difficult for them to advance. Therefore, in the battle on the Lion-Tiger Plain, there were not many bandits who were able to advance to the next tier. Apart from that, Chuanyun Hall and Wuwei Hall had taken away more than 100 men to guard the stone forest. As a result, Cold Mountain Stronghold only had about 300 bandits that could be used. But in Qin Shujian's opinion, this number was enough. That was because these 300 bandits were not ordinary bandits. The weakest among them was an expert in the 6th stage of the basic martial realm. Among them, there was no lack of experts in the 7th or 8th stage of the basic martial realm. Such power, if they were compared to Cold Mountain Stronghold, which was a first-class force, they would be worth more than a few thousand people. At the border of Liang Mountain, at this moment, a large number of undead skeletons rushed out. The bandits who were ordered to be on alert also took out their weapons and fought with the skeletons. Boom! With a surge of qi and blood, Zhao Shanlin shattered the bones of an undead skeleton with a palm strike. Immediately after, the large saber in his hand fiercely chopped down and beheaded it. The undead skeleton that was originally struggling suddenly stopped moving. Everyone attack the heads of these skeletons. That is their fatal weakness. Zhao Shanlin shouted loudly. After killing one of the skeletons, he didn't stop attacking the other skeletons. After hearing the other party's words, the bandits who were fighting with the undead skeletons immediately changed their attack pattern and focused on attacking the heads. In a moment, dozens of undead skeletons fell. With their strength of at least the 6th stage of the basic martial realm, dealing with these undead skeletons that were only in the 2nd or 3rd stage of the basic martial realm was a simple matter. Of course, if there weren't many undead skeletons. Whoosh! A cold gust of wind attacked from the right. Zhao Shanlin's ears twitched. He stepped on the 5 elements 8 trigrams and moved his body. Almost at the same time, a bone spear passed in front of his eyes. Without thinking, he directly chopped at the bone spear with his saber. Bang! Grey powder spilled out. A strong rebounding force came. Zhao Shanlin used this rebounding force to pull away from the bone spear. After he steadied himself, he looked at the source of the attack. There, a skeleton knight riding a skeleton horse appeared. Its withered hand tightly held a bone spear. Skeleton Knight! Zhao Shanlin's expression quietly became serious. According to the information from the intelligence hall, there was no trace of these skeleton knights. Moreover, according to the information, the undead skeletons were at most in the 4th or 5th stage of the basic martial realm. However, he felt a huge threat from this skeleton knight. This meant that the skeleton knight in front of him was at least in the 7th stage of the basic martial realm. It was even possible that it was in the 8th stage of the basic martial realm. However, Zhao Shanlin didn't feel any fear in his heart because he was also in the 7th stage of the basic martial realm. He also grasped many cultivation techniques. In terms of strength, he wasn't weak at all. The two sides simply looked at each other for less than 3 seconds. In the next breath, the two sides moved at the same time and attacked each other. The skeleton knight's speed was extremely fast. Its body was like a phantom. When the bone spear stabbed out, the sharp and powerful force directly tore the air apart. Zhao Shanlin held his saber with both hands. Although the 5 elements 8 trigrams steps wasn't as fast as the skeleton knight, it was more mysterious. As he moved, he directly dodged the skeleton knight's attack. His saber carried a fierce wind as it chopped towards the bone horse. If you want to chop a person, chop the horse first. This theory had the same effect on both humans and skeletons. Or else, the opponent was riding on the bone horse and had an innate advantage. Bang! The bone spear stabbed down and directly blocked Zhao Shanlin's saber. Seeing that his attack didn't hit, Zhao Shanlin immediately moved and his saber didn't stop attacking. The cultivation technique he used was Zhenghang's 100 Saber technique. Ever since the chaotic Gold Mountain and the other forces surrendered, they had all contributed their cultivation techniques. In the end, they handed them over to the martial arts hall for all the bandits to learn. As the team leader, Zhao Shanlin naturally had the qualifications to learn. However, the 100 Saber technique was very mysterious. With his current strength, after spending so much time, he had only just reached the entry level. However, in Zhao Shanlin's view, the entry level of the 100 Saber technique was enough to increase his strength by a lot. Following the appearance of the first skeleton knight, immediately after, the second and third appeared. In the end, there were already dozens of skeleton knights. These skeleton knights, who were the weakest in the 6th stage of the basic martial realm and the strongest in the 8th stage of the basic martial realm, joined the battle and immediately gave the bandits a lot of pressure. In addition to the numerous dead skeletons on the battlefield, the bandits of the Cold Mountain stronghold finally suffered casualties. Chapter 106. Dead Bandits. Under the influence of the demonic energy, they climbed up again without waiting for the corpse to disappear, turning into a member of the Devil Disaster, waving their butcher's knife at their original companions. When Qin Shujian arrived with his men, just in time to see such a scene, the number of bandits that were originally guarding the border had been reduced by almost half. The remaining bandits, under the siege of the Devil Disaster, were also in imminent danger. Spear into flesh. Blade light burst out. A skull fell to the ground. The skeleton knight riding on the skeleton horse seemed to have lost its soul and fell heavily to the ground with the skeleton horse. Zhao Shanlin's expression was fierce. He grabbed the bone spear in his shoulder and immediately pulled it out with force, bringing with it a spray of blood. He killed the skeleton knight. The price he paid was very high. At this moment, he felt the movement behind him. When he looked back, he just happened to see Qin Shujian's figure. His pale face was immediately overjoyed. He shouted, "The chief has come to support. Kill all these damn things!" As he spoke, however, he took a few steps back. There was no other way. Fighting with the skeleton knight, he had also suffered quite a lot of injuries. Kill! Qin Shujian looked at the endless stream of undead skeletons and skeleton knights coming from the undying plains. His eyes also became cold. Bandits that died in the hands of the Devil Disaster. It was completely different from bandits that died in the hands of players. If they died in the hands of players, they could still be resurrected. But if they died in the hands of the Devil Disaster, then they were really dead. This was a real loss. After receiving the order, Xing Fang and the others also had killing intent on their faces and immediately went to support. Qin Shujian took a step forward. The 1,000 mountain blood on his back seemed to be stimulated by something and automatically unsheathed and fell into his hand. Slash! The 5 feet-long blade swept across, and an invisible wind spread out from it. In an instant, dozens of undead skeletons' bodies stiffened, the red flames in their eye sockets extinguished, and then they fell down powerlessly. This was the black tiger saber technique of the entry level. It was no longer limited by the shackles of one move and one style. The saber intent was invisible and could directly destroy the souls of the undead skeletons. It could be said that the transformed black tiger saber technique was the nemesis of these skeletons. After killing dozens of undead skeletons, Qin Shujian glanced at the life force that came into his account and raised his eyebrows. The undead skeletons didn't contribute much life force. It was only about 1/5 of those in the same realm. However, Qin Shujian stared at the endless sea of skeletons with a cold glint in his eyes. There were simply too many skeletons. Even if the amount of life force they contributed was not as much as that of others of the same level, with the suppression of numbers, if they could harvest all of them, it would still be an unimaginable amount of life force. Furthermore, he didn't feel guilty at all for killing these undead skeletons. You haven't even attacked the immortal plains, but you've already reached your hands into my cold mountain stockades territory. You're courting death. Qin Shujian's body abruptly shot up and locked onto one of the skeleton knights with a powerful aura. It was a simple slash. However, it fell in a mysterious trajectory. In front of this blade, the skeleton knight stood there in a daze as if it did not see it. When the blade was about to touch it, it seemed to have reacted. Just as it was about to raise its bone spear, the blade had already sunk into its head. In an instant, the soul flame was extinguished. A skeleton knight was killed just like that. After killing a skeleton knight with one slash, Qin Shujian's attack didn't stop. The 5-foot-long saber was shining with a cold light, and a terrifying thought was rising from his body. Roar! A black tiger appeared in the void, roaring as the sound waves rolled. The undead skeletons and skeleton knights within 100 feet all paused as if they had suffered some kind of shock. Immediately afterward, Qian Shanshu absorbed the black tiger in the void and then slashed out. As the terrifying blade light burst out, the saber intent turned into invisible waves and swept in all directions. Bang! 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 2 seconds later, within 100 feet, all the skeletons of the Devil Disaster were destroyed. After this slash, Qin Shujian also paused for a moment, and his essence, qi, and spirit seemed to be a little exhausted. But soon, under the surging qi and blood, the consumed power was restored to its peak state in just a few breaths. As for his qi and blood power, it was not consumed too much. The benefits of the 3 10th level cultivation techniques were now apparent. Not only did it make Qin Shujian's strength far surpass his peers, but it also made his foundation extremely deep, almost to the point where it was almost impossible to exhaust. On the other side, when Qin Shujian burst out such a powerful attack, all the bandits were stunned. Even Jingfang, an expert of the 9th stage of the basic realm, had a look of disbelief in his eyes. This kind of strength. It was already beyond his scope of understanding. Is this the difference between the 9th stage of the basic realm and the 10th stage of the basic realm? Jingfang could not help but have such a thought in his mind. But thinking about it, it was not very likely. He did not believe that there was such a huge difference in just one stage. But while the bandits were suppressed, the skeletons and the skeleton knights did not have any consciousness. They were indifferent to the death of their own kind, and still continued to attack. So after a short period of shock, everyone temporarily put aside the thoughts in their heart, and turned to fight with the skeletons. But the scene just now could not be erased from their minds. In the undead plane, the undead evil lord sitting on the skeleton throne, at this time made a sound of surprise. What's going on? Is there a powerful expert in the ordinary realm? Just now, he felt hundreds and thousands of skeletons die, and the soul fire directly extinguished. This kind of sudden change, even the undead evil lord was surprised. It should be known that this was not a continuous death, but a sudden, instant death. To be able to do this step, only a certain kind of powerful attack, or a valiant expert was possible. Moreover, it was not as simple as an ordinary expert. Because among these dead souls, there was a part of the skeleton knights, and there was no lack of 8th stage of the basic realm. In this way, it directly attracted the attention of the undead evil lord. 10th stage of the basic realm? Or the limit of the basic realm? As an ancient demon, the undead evil lord naturally understood the difference between the 10th stage of the basic realm and the limit of the basic realm. The former only touched the peak of a realm. The latter reached the limit of this realm. In just a dozen breaths of time, the undead evil lord felt thousands of soul fire extinguished, and combined with the previous soul fire, the number of soul fire extinguished in a short period of time had reached 2,000 to 3,000. This time, even the undead evil lord could not sit still. If he lost too much of the undead army, it would not be a good thing for him. Suddenly, the undead evil lord stood up, the black and red fog surged, and a blood-red halo suddenly appeared in front of him. The army of the undead domain still lacks an expert enough to lead the army. Let me see this future general. Chapter 107. At the border between the Immortal Plains and Liang Mountain, the battle between the two sides continued. The Black Tiger Saber technique at the Dao initiation level allowed Qin Shujian to comprehend the saber intent. Against these skeletons that relied on the soul fire to revive, it was simply unstoppable. Whether it was the skeleton knights of the 8th level of the martial realm, or the undead skeletons of the 3rd level of the martial realm, in front of him, they were all no match for him. More importantly, the Black Tiger Saber technique, which was supposed to be a single attack, evolved into a group attack in front of these skeletons. The strength of the harvesting suddenly increased by several times. It was also because of the existence of Qin Shujian. Even if there were many skeletons coming from the Immortal Plains, they could not really occupy the territory of Liang Mountain. Suddenly, a blood-colored halo suddenly appeared. An existence holding a bone sword, wearing bone armor, and burning blue flames in his eyes stepped out from inside. Buzz! An invisible wave was emitted from the undead evil lord. The surrounding skeletons seemed to have received some kind of bonus, and their attacks suddenly became more violent. The moment the undead evil lord appeared, Qin Shujian's gaze also fell on the other party. Because he felt a great threat. This was the feeling between experts. Qin Shujian immediately understood that this sudden person might be the leader of these skeletons. Blood and Qi Mercury, the limit of the basic martial realm. The blue flames in the undead evil lord's eyes jumped, and his hoarse voice was also filled with admiration. If this was not the ordinary realm, you would have broken the limit long ago. Looking at Qin Shujian, the more he looked, the more satisfied he was. People who had reached the limit of the basic martial realm, their physical body had already reached the peak of this level. If such a person was transformed into an undead, his strength would be extremely powerful, and he would also have great potential. So, the moment he saw Qin Shujian, the undead evil lord had the intention to take him under his command. While the undead evil lord was sizing him up, Qin Shujian was also sizing him up. Who are you? Although he felt a great threat. But he was not afraid. In other words, with his current strength, Qin Shujian was confident that within the ordinary realm, there was no one who could pose a fatal threat to him. I am the undying evil lord. I can give you a chance to submit. You will obtain eternal life and unparalleled power. The undying evil lord said arrogantly. Undying evil lord? Qin Shujian's eyes flashed with a touch of doubt, but he soon understood. So you are the source of the demon calamity. Since the other party dared to call himself the undead demon lord, then he must be a demon that had broken out of his seal. It was just that he had thought that evil demons would have 3 heads and 6 arms, or a ferocious face. But looking at the undying evil lord before him, it was a little different from what he had imagined. This is purification. Only by washing away the filth in one's body can one become my undying subjects. Undying evil lord remained calm and said, "If you are willing to submit, you can command my undead army. At that time, you can slaughter your way out of the ordinary realm with me. Not only will you be able to dominate a region, but you will also be able to obtain eternal life." At the end of his speech, undead evil lord's tone was a little fanatical. Her words seemed to contain some kind of temptation, making people unconsciously want to fall into it. Boom! The black tiger roared, turning into a sharp burst of will. Qin Shijian's eyes suddenly became clear. Looking at the undying evil lord's eyes became cold. "Worthy of being an evil demon, your means are strange and unpredictable. Concept." The blue flame in the undying evil lord's eyes jumped faster, and his tone seemed to be quite shocked. Just that, without waiting for him to say too much. On the other side, Qin Shijian had already launched his attack. Mercury-like blood chi burst out, level 2 green true chi attached to the blade. A pure and incomparably sharp will instantly tore through the air. Boom! Before the blade arrived, the momentum was already like thunder. This blade, Qin Shijian did not hold back at all, directly using the strongest power that he could at the moment. Just one blade. The undying evil lord's mind was also shaken. Evil spirit slash! The dark red flame on the bone sword burst out, and when the sword was swung, an arc of blood light burst out, and a terrifying power instantly spread out. Since you don't want to surrender, then accept death. With the undying evil lord's arrogance, even if it was a person at the limit of the martial arts, he would at most only give one chance. Break! Facing the blood light, Qin Shijian's eyes were fierce, and a black tiger shadow appeared in the air, and then escaped into the blade. 1,000 mountain blood suddenly spat out a cold light. Rip! The blood light was torn apart in an instant, and the remaining force of the blade continued to slash towards the undying evil lord. The undying evil lord was not in a hurry, and the bone sword was raised first. Bang! The two collided, and a strong wind spread out. The undying evil lord stood still, and Qin Shijian, in the face of this force, took a step back. This time, the two sides seemed to have a clear winner. But Qin Shijian's expression was as usual, and just as he took a step back, he once again faced the pressure, and the 1,000 mountain blood slashed down in a mysterious trajectory, and a faint roar could be heard. The undying evil lord's bone sword slashed out, and the dark red flame turned into a fierce beast, as if to swallow Qin Shijian. The blade swept out, tearing the flame. Then, the undying evil lord disappeared in place, and the dark red light flashed. Qin Shijian stepped on the 5 elements 8 trigrams, and narrowly avoided the bone sword, and at the same time responded with a blade. Boom! Bang! The two of them were like ghosts, flashing about in the battlefield. Every time they collided, a strong gust of wind would erupt, sending anything they came into contact with flying away. Such a change. Naturally, it attracted the attention of the other bandits. This is the evil spirit that the chief spoke of, and its strength is indeed terrifying. Su Yuanming repelled a skeleton knight with a blade, and his mouth also sucked in a cold breath. With his eyesight, he could not keep up with the speed of the two. What kind of cultivation technique is the chief using? Why does it look a little familiar? That's the 5 elements 8 trigram steps. Xing Fang's tone was filled with emotion. This cultivation technique came from him, so how could he not recognize it? But what he did not expect was, even he himself had only practiced the 5 elements 8 trigram steps to the point of perfection, but Qin Shijian was obviously better, and had reached the peak of perfection. The student had surpassed the master, and this was how it was. More than 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. The two were still fighting, and did not stop for a moment. Whether it was the undying evil lord or Qin Shijian, at this time, their hearts became heavy. In the ordinary realm, no matter how powerful an expert was, they could only exert the strength of the basic realm. The undying evil lord was once a terrifying expert, but now, his realm was only at the 10th stage of the basic realm. But with the evil spirit's foundation, his strength could easily crush ordinary 10th stage of the basic realm. But Qin Shujian was not an ordinary 10th stage of the basic realm. He had also reached the limit of the basic realm, and was an expert who had comprehended blade intent. In the ordinary realm, his strength may not be as good as the undying evil lord, but the gap was not so big that he could not compete. Chapter 108. All of a sudden, Qin Shujian's mind moved. His life force was reduced by hundreds. The 5 elements 8 trigram steps that was already at the peak of perfection suddenly became one with the heavens. At the same time, a feeling of good fortune surged into his heart. His understanding of the 5 elements 8 trigram steps had also undergone an earth-shaking change. Immediately after, Qin Shujian took a step forward, and a vaguely visible 8 trigrams pattern emerged from under his feet. His body's movement speed was instantly more than twice as fast as before. In the sight of the undead demon lord, he suddenly lost sight of the other party. The next moment, a terrifying gust of wind came from behind his head. The undead demon lord abruptly turned around, and the other withered palm suddenly pressed out. The black and red palm heavily collided with the 1,000 mountain blood. Rumble! The 5th grade weapon combined with the power of the peak of the basic martial arts, instantly tore apart the palm and accurately chopped on the undead demon lord's palm. In an instant, sparks burst out. A powerful force erupted from it, and Qin Shujian immediately retreated. This time, the undead demon lord was finally forced back 2 steps by the force of the rebound. For a moment, the scene was silent. The 1,000 mountain blood blade was slanted downward. Qin Shujian stood in the same place calmly, coldly looking at the undead demon lord in front of him. The mercury-like blood in his body had already been consumed by more than half. The continuous confrontation just now, every blow was equivalent to an all-out attack. Even if he had a strong foundation, it had reached the point where he could not support it. Just that, Qin Shujian did not reveal any strange expression. While looking at the undead evil lord, he secretly looked at his own life source. More than 7,000. Although the contribution of life force from the skeletons of the devil disaster was not much compared to the same level, but their level was not low. After the previous battle, including the digestion of the 5 elements 8 trigram steps, it had provided him with a total of about 4,000 life force. Suddenly, Qin Shujian's originally somewhat flustered heart suddenly calmed down. With life force in hand, there was nothing to fear. Consuming a bit of blood was nothing. If the other party really did not give up, then at most he would fight to the death. On the other side, the undead demon lord was also hesitating. To tell the truth, Qin Shujian's strength had completely exceeded his expectations. He had originally thought that it was just a peak basic realm cultivator, but he had never imagined that it was a peak basic realm cultivator who had comprehended a concept. In this way, one's strength couldn't simply be viewed as the limit of basic martial arts. Thought. This was not something a basic martial realm cultivator could possess. Even after surpassing the basic martial realm, not many people were able to comprehend it. If the limit of basic martial arts was considered mortal, then comprehending the concept was equivalent to taking the first step towards transcendence. If it was outside the ordinary realm, the undead evil lord was confident that he could kill a basic realm martial artist with a single finger. Even if he was in the ordinary realm, he would be able to plunder a few more earthly realms to heal his injuries. He was confident that he would be able to kill him. However, undying evil lord had to admit it. The current him. He was not confident that he could kill Qin Shujian. In other words, even if he managed to kill his opponent, he would have to pay a huge price. His injuries might even worsen. In this way, the gains would not make up for the losses. The undead evil lord did not want to waste the resources he had accumulated to leave the ordinary realm on a basic realm cultivator. So, the undead evil lord's withered finger swiped forward, and the blood-red halo that had disappeared reappeared. Before stepping into the blood-red halo, he took a deep look at Qin Shujian and left a ruthless sentence. I will remember you. Anyone who blocks the footsteps of the evil demon clan will be destroyed. Basic realm cultivators are just ants. The next time we meet, I will definitely kill you. After that, the undead evil lord directly disappeared into the blood-red halo. Finally, together with the blood-red halo, they disappeared from Qin Shujian's line of sight. The skeletons that were originally fighting with the bandits, when the undead evil lord disappeared, also began to retreat in an orderly manner, retreating back to the undead plains. No need to chase. Seeing that there were still some hot-headed bandits who wanted to chase, Qin Shujian's face suddenly darkened and shouted to stop their actions. To tell the truth, the undead evil lord's retreat also let him secretly breathe a sigh of relief. If the other party really wanted to fight to the death with him, then he was afraid that the result would be to injure the enemy 800 and lose 1,000. It was good that he left. At least for a short period of time, there was no need to fight to the death. Although his heart was flustered, Qin Shujian's face was still as calm as an old dog. Don't chase a cornered enemy. The undead plains have not been investigated clearly. Although the evil demon is not to be feared, it is still necessary to be cautious. The Lord's divine power is invincible, repelling the evil demon in one fell swoop. This little one admires. Zhao Shanlin, who had simply bandaged his wounds, shouted loudly at this time, and at the same time heavily flattered. Suddenly, the other bandits also reacted, and immediately shouted, The Lord's divine power is invincible! The Lord's divine power is invincible! All right. Qin Shujian's face had a faint smile, motioning for the others to calm down. Suddenly, the scene gradually calmed down, and then he opened his mouth and said, Check the battlefield, bandage the injured brothers, some of the others stay here on guard, and the rest follow me to the stone forest. As for the corpse, there was no possibility of it existing at all. Qin Shujian had already understood that only similar to a natural death, other than leaving the corresponding corpse, those who died in the hands of others, the corpse would disappear after a period of time. In the words of Jingfang and the other NPCs, this was returning to heaven and earth. Everything in the world nurtured people, and people had nothing to repay the heavens with. Only by returning to heaven and earth could one repay the heavens' kindness. As for why only similar to a natural death would there be a corpse left behind and not return to heaven and earth? This point, no one, or rather, no NPC knew. At this time, the bandits on the spot were divided into 3 groups. Those who were injured went back to treat, and then left a portion here to guard, in case the undead evil lord returned. The last group of people, Qin Shujian, rushed to the stone forest. The devil disaster in the Liang Mountain area was temporarily resolved, but it was not certain whether the devil disaster in the stone forest had retreated. But in fact, Qin Shujian, on the other hand, was overthinking. When he arrived at the stone forest, the devil disaster there had already retreated. It seemed that with the retreat of the undead evil lord, all the devil disaster that walked out of the undead plains had all retreated. It was just that, although the devil disaster had retreated, but Chuan Yun Hall and Wu Wei Hall had suffered heavy losses. After the baptism of the devil disaster, their overall strength had been reduced by almost half. If the devil disaster had not retreated in time, they would have been in danger of being wiped out. Even Niu Feng and Xinghong had suffered a great loss in the hands of the skeleton knights. For this, Qin Shujian was also in a heavy mood. Just one confrontation with the devil disaster, and Liang Mountain Village had almost suffered heavy losses. After all, the overall strength of the two sides was still very far apart. For the first time, he became a little anxious about Gu Feng's words of joining forces to deal with the devil disaster. After a simple appeasement, Qin Shujian ordered a portion of people to stay behind to assist the two halls and return to Liang Mountain Village. Just as he stepped foot back, someone came to find him. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.